In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Sci podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking old.
You're still out. You're still back.
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Big sigh.
My balls are hot.
Man, I know. It's
Dude, it's hot in here.
it's hot ball temperature outside.
It's very humid here in the great state of Washington.
Yeah. We're having the most mild. Other states, they're burning,
Yeah.
they're tornadoes. We're just the most mild. It's
Speaking of-
68.
Speaking of that, since
What?
we're talking about Fear and Loathing outside of Las Vegas.
Inside.
Whatever. Outside. We had 2 earthquakes
Oh,
in
yeah,
Vegas
man.
when I
Oh,
was
yeah.
there.
Yeah, dude.
I was at the UFC Hall of Fame. Rashad Sugar Evans was giving a speech. And I am not over exaggerating, man. The giant screen monitors, the speakers up on the side
Yeah, that was
in
a big
my
one.
chair. They were shaking back and forth. And it wasn't just like a 5-second earthquake. It was long.
It was a big one, yeah.
Everyone was looking around. They're like, dude, should we get out of here? Even I was panicking. And normally I'm like, oh, whatever.
The
Just
people,
crush me.
you could probably tell who was from California because they probably didn't flinch.
Oh, there were
They-
a few. There were a few people legitimately that were like this, like just unamused by it.
You
They're
guys are a
like,
bunch of pussies, yeah. If it ain't 7.0 or higher, I'm
it
not.
was a 7.1.
It
though.
was, yeah. And
I
the
mean,
other one was.
it wasn't a 7.1 in Vegas, but it was a 7.1 in California.
Yeah, you probably just got the aftershock.
But it was strong, dude. I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
my seat was literally like shaking back and forth, and all the monitor. I mean, there are giant screens in Vegas in those theaters.
Yeah.
And they were swinging back and forth.
Yeah, they were talking about that everywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, well, mostly about California.
And I was on the 18th floor of my hotel, the first one that came along, the very first day I was there, and I'm like, I'm not even drunk. Am I already like?
You just gotta
And then
get
I
used to
started
that.
seeing the lights swing back and
Yeah,
forth.
man.
I'm like, oh no, there's an earthquake happening.
Yeah.
It was crazy, man. It was nuts.
California, it's she's sinking,
She is.
and I would get off that ship now.
Aren't we trying to get on that ship?
Well, we are. Fuck
Well, we
it.
were.
There's not gonna be anything left by the time.
No, there's not. By the time we get there,
Might make it easier for us. Everyone
Yeah.
else is gone. We'll be
That's
the only
true.
people
We'll be
there.
the only one there. We'll run the whole town.
I'll
Start
be
from
mayor.
the ground up. It's
Yeah.
like the Yakuza, you know.
I mean, we'll be fucking going to work in boats, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's probably.
And it'll
gonna
be a
little hard to get around.
post-apocalyptic world where we
Right.
will be killing for our
And
food.
all the movies we're gonna try to shoot would be tough. Maybe we could do a Waterworld 2 sequel
we could film
Quite
on
possibly.
location.
on location. Yeah, I mean it's a great.
It will be
idea.
more of a documentary at that point.
Yeah, at that point, I mean,
Yeah.
we would do a little bit more like a vlog series. You know?
Yeah, it'd be
It would
definitely
look
more of a documentary. But yeah, that was crazy. I'm telling you, man. And then in Washington, we're just couldn't be more mild.
Couldn't be more
Nothing
mild,
happens.
but
It doesn't snow. It does. There's not even sun anymore.
it doesn't. But dude, it is so damn humid here.
It is
and
humid,
I don't know if I've
unfortunately.
had the desert heat for the last 5 days, so it's like I'm not used to this all of a sudden. But I'm sweating bullets, man.
Yeah.
It is so humid here in
It is
Washington.
humid.
And it's not even hot out today. It was like what 70, but the humidity is at like 90%. I'm like, are we living in
Yeah,
Florida
it
right
felt
now?
horrible. Just walking outside, you're just drenched in sweat, do nothing. But this is a fun episode, Mason, because you flew all the way down to Vegas just to better understand this movie. Just
Look,
do a
man,
little more research on it.
Here's the thing.
which is
Yeah, you want to talk
which
about
is amazing.
gonzo journalism? I mean,
Exactly.
I literally gonzo journalism the shit out of this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is the first person perspective.
And I don't know
of
what I
Vegas.
create a monster because I just
You did.
randomly, I'm like, Mason, maybe we should review Fear and Loathing.
And then I bought a plane ticket to
One-
Vegas the next
2
day.
hours later, you're gone. I don't see you for a week.
I know, sorry, dude. I
It's the
called in
most
sick.
Hunter S. Thompson.
Definitely was.
Yeah, you just went
I did some
full on.
LSD.
You went
and
deep
some
into it.
shrooms.
Yeah.
I did, man, because I wanted to better understand this Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
And that's the kind of dedication that people are getting when they're listening to High Sci podcast.
Absolutely.
You know,
and,
we
and they got to appreciate it at the end of the day.
you go, yeah.
Because
It's
who else
hard
is doing
work.
this
That's
for a
what,
podcast?
end of the day, it's hard work. It's
It is.
very Hunter S. Thompson. You know, he was a lot of things, but hard worker was one of them.
Exactly.
He went down there and he got in it. He went into the fucking trenches.
The fucking murky water.
Unfortunately, Vegas is a little different these days.
It is. It's much
It's
different.
not the
more
same place as the
commercialized.
1960s for sure, where you could really just get away with just doing anything.
I will say, though, you can get away with a lot in Vegas. You can get away with a lot, man. I saw some shitty drunk people there.
Oh yeah.
That it was like,
well, you can get away with being shitty.
yeah, that's still a thing in Vegas.
Yeah. I don't know if you can get away if you fucking trashing your hotel apartment
room,
and then going across the street and getting a new one the next day. I mean, that's the days of that are gone for sure,
true.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the fucking how he trashed his apartment.
God, it was
It
flooded.
was 6 inches in
Awful.
water.
Yeah, there was grapefruit and tubs.
But back then there's
strange.
no way of finding anyone. So
Well,
you
no,
couldn't-
every
there's-
single time in this movie they
just
were,
went to a new hotel, yeah.
it was a fake identity.
which
anyway,
you could. I mean, that's
He was like, I'm.
and
gonna
that's
get
one thing I
caught
love about this
eventually.
movie. Is
Yeah.
it shows you a lot of how it was just back then, man. Especially Vegas. Where
Wild.
Vegas was just it was like the last of the fucking outlaw
It's
town.
like, it's like Casino or.
Oh yeah, man.
You know what
oh
I'm saying?
yeah. People can. I mean, you disappear in Vegas. People just don't look for you.
No, they know where you're at.
Yeah.
You're about 7 miles out in that desert, buried in a shallow.
Well, 8
grave.
miles. That's where they get 86th from, because it's 8 miles out, 6 feet deep.
Yep.
Fun thing, most of the towns in Vegas or most of the
built
cities,
upon dead bodies.
they're all 8 miles out of Las Vegas. Most of them, that's where they start. So most of those fucking houses are fucking buried on top of bodies.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, because
But
that's where
very
that's
true.
where the residential area starts, is 8 miles out of Vegas. Oh yeah, dude, a ton. I mean, think of the bodies; they have no idea what's down there. I mean, they were probably just murdering
many.
bus boys that
Yeah.
just did something wrong or whatever.
Well, I mean,
they-
obviously, the lawyer in this, we come to find out, had a disappearance out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, man, that was the good old days of America where you could literally just disappear.
And
I mean, not
no
even
one would ever hear from you.
Not
again.
even getting murdered, but one day you could just say you could just leave your family and everything, and be
And
like,
start a brand new
I'm
life.
leaving, and you can just be a town over. They have no fucking clue how to find you. You can start. I mean, there were some people who had like 5 families,
Uh-huh.
like airplane pilots. They just went town to town, starting families.
It's
Yeah.
insane, man.
You could do that back then. That
You
was the good
could.
days, man. Nowadays, you
good
can't
old
disappear.
days, no.
You could
You
disappear,
got
but
social
it's
media and
really
everything. It's
difficult.
tough. It's
Yeah,
really
dude.
difficult. You got these things called fingerprints now.
And the fucking cameras are everywhere. I mean,
Everywhere.
they're face tracking us for sure.
Yeah,
Let's
for
be
sure.
honest.
Without a doubt.
they're
Snapchat, they know what's up.
You can't. I mean, you got to go back up to like the Yukon. Or you got to go up to Alaska.
Have
or
you
something.
seen deep fakes on the internet? You've never seen deep fakes. It's a big thing.
Oh
now.
yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. Yeah, where like it legitimately looks like people. Like they did this Tom Cruise one where they're like, "Oh, Tom Cruise is here today."
No, you haven't seen
he
the-
came in the room and everything, and it looked like Tom Cruise. I mean, you could just barely.
You haven't seen the
barely
newest
tell
one?
at certain spots.
The newest one, this is exciting, is they do The Shining. They replaced Jack Nicholson with Jim Carrey's face, and it looks fucking perfect.
See, that's
They're
what
doing
I'm saying,
they're doing
man.
scenes by scenes, and it looks fucking perfect,
but,
dude.
man,
I wish we're
we're gonna
doing a
get to
movie
a
news
point-
because
yeah.
I'd post that because it's so funny.
Yeah.
And then you realize, but the kind of cool thing is you realize Jim Carrey could totally play a new fucking. I mean, it looks good, dude.
Okay.
I'll show it to you after this, but
Okay.
it looks really fucking good. Yeah, man, that technology is amazing to me.
It really is. It
really is
fascinates me.
But of course, I mean, I'm not.
Don't you see a problem with that in the future, though?
No,
Come on,
No.
man.
I don't see.
So what if like someone photoshops or not photoshops, but whatever, deep fakes
Yeah.
your face to say some shit that you never said before, but you have no way of backing that up?
You
or,
could. You
like,
could say.
defending
You could
yourself?
say, "Oh, I wasn't there." That's not. I mean, I wasn't there at the time. And then you can. They're guaranteed. There's proof that you'd be somewhere else. So I mean, if someone wanted to
Not
like
always.
frame
I'm
me
not
for a murder or
documenting
something,
every single minute of my life.
yeah, but someone is.
that's true.
You
Yeah,
may
the
not be, but
government-
someone else
Someone's
is.
tracking my phone. Yeah,
Trust me, man. We all have an FBI agent that's just dedicated to tracking what we do. So
it's a pretty hefty salary though for 300 million FBI agents to track each one person individually. You figure you divvy that up to at least like
with
3
bureaucracy,
people
I'm guessing
per
it probably
FBI
is.
agent.
It probably
Yeah.
is, and they're probably
They
not
got
doing.
100
They're probably
million
watching the
employees.
wrong people too. Like they're
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
me
They're
and
probably,
you.
Yeah, me and you. Where
You
it's
should be
like,
watching some other people.
like, look, man, we got hours
Yeah.
of YouTube.
My FBI
content.
guy is be just fucking chilling.
I know, I
He's
just
not
want-
worried about
No,
anything, dude.
He's
He's
having
like,
a good
this
time.
guy's
He's got
not
his legs
doing-
up. He's like, this
Yeah, this guy's not fucking doing
Are you
anything.
kidding
Are
me?
you kidding me? He barely leaves the house.
job's pretty boring, honestly. I
This
mean,
job
I was
does
watching
itself.
Netflix. I'm actually a fan of the podcast now
Yeah.
because I just watch so much movies.
Yeah, they got
Actually,
talent,
yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
strange.
they sure as hell aren't committing any crimes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really worry about that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
one, who would want to frame me?
I don't know.
You'd have to.
I mean,
be
you're a
desperate.
pretty likable guy. I mean, it'd be real hard to be like.
Well,
you know
not
what,
even that,
fuck
but like,
that
what are you gonna
cash
get
Kraus
out of
guy.
it?
Yeah, that's
So, like,
true.
what are you gonna
Like,
get?
what about, yeah,
Like,
they'll
ruin my
blackmail
life?
You, give
Go
me
ahead.
$500. You're like, bro, I don't even got $500.
I'm in debt. Dude. You
I mean,
can take it. You can be
take my
yeah.
debt. That'd
Take
be
my
nice.
fucking ID and my
Please.
steal my identification. You're just
It'd
gonna get a
almost be
lot of
better.
debt, my
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. You'd be doing me a favor. So I'm not really worried about it. Maybe I would like to get to the point where I would have to worry about it, where I'm
That
really
would be
rich, and then I
fantastic,
have to be
right?
like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta really
And you're
worry
like,
about
oh
this.
man, I gotta get LifeLock.
Yeah, for us though, right now.
It's so funny. I see those ads and I'm like, LifeLock. I'm like, why do I need that? I don't have money in my account.
No.
It's like, okay,
Oh yeah, dude. I'm
whatever.
not,
Why do I need LifeLock?
that's a good thing
Worry
about
about that later.
That's one good thing about being poor. You don't have to
It
worry
is,
about
you don't
anyone
have to worry
stealing your
about
money.
Anyone stealing anything?
Like I can't imagine Bill Gates. He's probably fucking stressing out all the time. Like
Oh, every day, man.
I can't account for every dollar.
No,
I guarantee
impossible.
someone right now stealing from Bill Gates.
Or trying to.
I guarantee multiple. I'm just the billions of dollars that come in and out. He's not
Yeah.
tracking. You could take $100 grand and he would never realize it.
No,
Not
that's
even
like
that. It's a
0.0001%
drop in the bucket. Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
he makes per year.
But we're not here to talk about Bill Gates.
We're not.
We're here to talk about Fear and Loathing. And this is the first time you've watched this, Mason. So you going down to
Actually,
Vegas
that
was
is-
shocking.
That
to
is
me.
incorrect because
Well, it's the
though
first
it is
time
the
you've
first
seen
time
it.
I watched it, I
Yeah.
watched it 2 more times after the fact.
Yeah.
Because this movie was so awesome.
But you've never seen it before.
Yeah,
before we were going to review it.
review it. No, I have never seen this movie. And I
Man.
got to tell you, Cash, I turned this on. Now remember, I had no idea going into this movie what it was whatsoever. All I saw was Johnny Depp and Benicio Del Toro, and I go, okay, this is going to be awesome. So I watched the first maybe 10 minutes. I had to turn it off, and I had to process what
Because
I
it was
saw.
giving you a headache.
Well, it wasn't, no, because I realized that this was going to be like a cult film or something that was completely different than your traditional film. And I was a little irritated at first when I watched the first 10 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I couldn't follow the story. And then I go, okay, just turn it off. Because you got to prep yourself for watching a movie like this.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're getting into.
I agree. I told you.
And,
I said you're gonna want to sit down and focus on
Yep.
this. It's not. At least the first time you watch it, or at least the first few times, it's one of those where you don't want to kind of put it on the background or something.
No.
Can I've seen it so many times where I can
put
flip it
the
on and do
background
something
the third
else.
time
Yeah,
I watched it.
because I love it, but yeah, not a lot of people went and saw this movie.
No.
And it's got not the greatest reviews. So for people that don't know what Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is, it's a 1989 film directed by Terry Gilliam.
1998.
1998, yeah, got those numbers mixed up. Directed by Terry Gilliam. People might know that name. He's the only American member of Monty Python.
Yes.
Of course.
Didn't he
he's
help
done-
write too?
Write what?
Monty Python.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
a founding member. They all
Yeah.
wrote and they all wrote and
Yeah,
did
they're
that.
all
Yeah, they all
co-writers,
Yeah,
I guess.
but yeah, he's one of the OG and he's one of my favorite directors. He's done and all of his movies are like this. They're just fucking
Different.
batshit crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, it's in 1998. I'll give you the synopsis, which isn't gonna help really. But an
No,
oddball
no.
journalist and a psychopathic lawyer travel to Las Vegas for a series of psychedelic escapades. Really, what they're going down is old Hunter. It's about Hunter S. Thompson. We
Yep.
should talk about that, right?
Yeah, let's talk about Hunter a little bit.
Hunter, who was a crazy guy. He invented
Yeah.
Gonzo journalism, which
Right.
Gonzo journalism means you're not covering the story, you are the story.
Exactly.
You make yourself part of the story,
Yeah.
which is something that was very different, especially in the 60s, because that's when this book was, because this movie is based on a book.
Well, and he
That was
literally
written in the
created,
60s.
Yeah, he created that very essence of journalism,
did, yeah.
Gonzo journalism.
Because before journalism was like, it was always separate, the story, and then there was always like an outsider perspective. So you could never really get, in there in the details. And he, that's what he ended up doing, is he went in there and, but yeah, it starts out, he was going to cover some, what is it? It's like the Baja 500.
Yeah, it's
Basically.
it's like a sand dunes race.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sports, because he was a sports editor, but, yeah, so it's him and his
lawyer, Dr. Gonzo.
It's Johnny Depp who's playing Hunter S. Thompson, but his name is Raoul
Raoul
Duke.
Duke. Yes.
So he doesn't go by Hunter because Fear and Loathing, the book, it's a complicated book where it's like half fiction, half not fiction. I mean,
And some things were fabricated and stuff throughout.
Yeah, exactly.
To give it entertainment.
Because at the time,
value.
he wanted to make the most realistic. What he wanted to do is what he said is he wanted to go down to Vegas and just have a tape recorder and tape it on his body, and he ends up doing it in the movie.
Yeah.
But he said because he wants to get the most real, be down there with the people, and everything he captured on tape. Ended up
I
not
love
doing
that. That's almost the modern day version of a documentary.
Yeah.
Essentially, where you bring your camera around, you record interactions.
Oh yeah, he was
with
ahead of the game
ordinary,
for sure.
everyday people.
Yeah.
You know.
But like the synopsis says, they get down there though, and they do anything but cover that race.
No, I think it's mentioned in the film maybe 7 minutes of the entire movie.
And it's funny when he goes down there too, because he just he kind of treats everyone like shit or whatever, and he just like
these characters are assholes. But
that's
you
what
almost-
it is. Is
Yeah.
every character in this is like a caricature of this person. Like even Johnny Depp playing Hunter S. Thompson. It's not Hunter S. Thompson. He's playing Raoul Duke. It's
Correct.
very like Hunter S. Thompson, but Hunter S. Thompson wasn't.
Well, and
He
Hunter
wasn't
S.
this big of an
Thompson,
asshole. One.
And this is one of the facts of this movie is he watched it and he watched that one scene where Johnny Depp throws the change at the midget,
which is very
and
unlike.
he was super upset about
Yeah.
that. He goes, "That's nothing like me."
No, he would
He
never
goes,
do something like that.
If I would have saw that guy in Las Vegas doing that, he goes, I would have went up to him and smacked him
Yeah.
myself. But again, it's film. It's a character.
And he understood that Johnny Depp wasn't really playing him. He's playing
Yes.
this character that he invented that's based off of him, but he wasn't playing Hunter S. Thompson like we talked about. And Hunter S. Thompson was, it wasn't like this was made without his wishes or whatever like that. He loved Johnny Depp. They were very good friends, and he wanted him to play him. And Johnny Depp does a great job of fucking playing him.
Yeah, he does. He really does a great job.
He does a really good job. But really, the who steals the show is Benicio playing Dr. Gonzo. What is he? How does he? He describes him as a 350-pound Samoan lawyer.
Yeah.
And really, he was Hispanic.
Yeah,
He wasn't Samoan at all, even in real life. The real Dr. Gonzo, which was a real person, was his real lawyer, who we talked about, and he
There
was
were
just as
so
crazy
many-
as Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, there were so many fantastic quotes throughout this entire movie.
It's so quotable, and I quote it
It's
all
so
the time
good.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes right at the start. Right at the start, they're getting all their shit together, and,
And
they're
they're
getting
going
this.
through backcountry.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
getting all this, and they're getting just a giant, like a giant supply of drugs. Memory, that's a great quote. He's like, once we didn't intend to get all these drugs, but once you go on a bender like that, it's hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting what is it? I can't remember what it was, but it's like a salt shaker of cocaine, a full bottle of ether, 4 liters of rum, like mushrooms, and it's everything. It's just insane.
It's an
amount.
insane list, and then a salt shaker half full of cocaine.
Yeah,
But to me, that seems like not enough cocaine.
that's quite a bit.
I've never used cocaine. but
That's
what I will
quite a
say
bit.
is
Well, remember
a
they do
salt
run.
shaker for Vegas and what they're doing, the kind of drugs they're doing. You figured they'd have.
Oh man, they had
I mean-
everything though. They had mescaline. They really had to.
Yeah, they had a lot
spread
to work
it out.
with. Yeah.
They had a lot, but a salt shaker cocaine. That's quite a bit of fucking cocaine.
No, a half full though.
yeah, half
That's what he
full,
said.
yeah.
Half
Still.
full. So
But
that's
and
not that much.
but in the movie though, they end up running out of cocaine is almost the first thing.
Yeah.
At one point, he says he's like they ran out of cocaine like an hour into it or something. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the very start when they're driving there, he dumps all the fucking cocaine on the.
yeah, on the suitcase.
On the suitcase, and
Did
he
you know
licks
that
it.
that scene was actually improv?
Yeah, I did know. Yeah.
Benicio just did that. He just
I heard a lot of their scenes were
He was licking
were
it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And that is one of my favorite scenes is when they pick up a great cameo from my Spider-Man, who will always be
your
my
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, who will
Oh, okay.
always be.
Okay.
But a young Tobey Maguire.
You gotta love it. You gotta
It's
love seeing young
hilarious.
Spider-Man in that long blonde hair.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, what's such a weird kind
Very
of.
strange.
But it's yeah, and it's the 60s of course, or it's the 60s 70s. So hitchhiking was a very popular thing, and everyone did it. So they pick him up, and he's freaking out immediately. He knows something's up. Or one, because Johnny Depp, because they're going through backcountry, and they're high off mescaline and stuff. So Johnny Depp's swinging around.
Well, and they're hallucinating too. So,
and they're yelling at each other.
Yeah, Johnny Depp is hallucinating.
Yeah.
But Benicio hasn't yet. Remember, he goes, poor bastard hasn't seen the bats, but he will soon enough.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's your turn to drive. And he pulls over the car.
Yeah. And then Johnny Depp hops in the back and starts yelling at him, trying to explain what's going on.
Terrifying.
And and then he starts waving around a gun. Benicio does.
Then shit gets serious. Yeah. That's what I loved about Benicio Del Toro's character. Is like, sometimes he was almost likable, and then you just would be like, no, he's a piece of shit. I do not like this guy at all.
But they talk about, I mean, that's the way it's like using drugs is, you know. He talks about how you can't turn your back on a fiend, or you can, and now, I mean,
I love that
and he
line
knew so
where
well, and Hunter S. Thompson, of course, knows so well because he enjoyed drugs. He was an addict, but he used it. I mean, I pulled this up. This is Hunter S. Thompson. This is later in his life. This is his daily schedule. He submitted this to like a daily newspaper in Colorado or something. Something
it's a
small.
crazy schedule too.
3 p.m. he woke up. 3:05 at the Regal. That's a hotel. Morning papers. And then he had a cigarette. 3:45. 45 minutes after he woke up. Cocaine. 3:50. Another glass of Chivas, don't know, which is a champagne, I think. 4:95. First cup of coffee. 4:15. Cocaine. 4:16. A minute later, orange juice. 4:30, cocaine. 4:54, cocaine. 5:05, cocaine. 5:11, coffee, Dunhills. 5:30, more ice in the Chivas. 5:45, cocaine. 6:15, just take the edge off. Grass, and it literally says grass to take the edge off.
You have to. I mean, how
You
much
do.
cocaine he's done?
You
how
do.
many
You
lines,
have to
You
even
gotta
it
take
out.
that.
You gotta even it out.
Even flow. You know.
This is 3 hours he's been up so far.
And he has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
Hits
lines of cocaine.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing
which I'm
he's doing just
probably,
lines.
Yeah, 2 times 2, so he's probably doing 12.
7:05, he went down to a bar. Because this is 7 p.m. Because he doesn't wake up
He
till
doesn't
3
wake up
p.m.
till 3. Yeah, that's the life right there.
That it really is. 8 p.m. cocaine. 10 p.m. drops acid. Take a break from the cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, drop some acid.
Take a small break.
Yeah,
You
take
gotta
the edge off.
split it up. You gotta even it out. 11:15. Chartreuse. I don't know what that is. Cocaine. That's the big thing.
Yeah,
back to the cocaine.
And then a little bit of grass.
Yeah, he's only dropped acid for an hour, and now he's back to cocaine. 11:30. This will be surprising to you. Cocaine.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say reading the Bible.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Close.
Okay.
Midnight, Hunter ready to write. Doesn't stop writing till midnight. Then 12:05 to 6 a.m. He drinks, smokes, coffee, Heineken, clove cigarettes, grapefruit, more Dunhills, orange juice, a
But
little
what I will
gin.
say during this time, even though he was documenting all of this, his writing time primarily was from right around midnight till about 6 in the
Well, he
morning.
put a full fucking day in.
Yeah. He would. I mean, that's almost 8
Even
full
though,
hours of
I mean,
work,
not
even though
a
he's
lot of
fucked up.
people could do an entire day of cocaine and then go to the office.
And then work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then work. It's amazing, man. It's absolutely amazing. 8 a.m. he would do something, Halcyon, which is a sleeping drug, I'm pretty sure. Then 8:20 a.m., right when the sun is rising, off to bed. He did this every day.
Every day.
And he did not ever die of a cocaine overdose.
No, he did not. But you know what?
You
know
may
what's
be
so
surprised
sad
to
about
figure
it?
out.
Is if you don't know who Hunter S. Thompson is, as a matter of fact, at 67 years old in 2005, he took his own life.
He did. He had numerous medical problems, though. He lived quite a life, though.
But didn't he say he never wanted to grow old? He never wanted to live.
He
as an
never
old man?
expected to live
Yeah.
to 70.
To that
no.
old.
And everyone knew. And it was no surprise or anything. And I don't think it was very shocking when he took his life. I don't think. No. I think people were more happy about the life he lived and were really sad because
totally.
no one was really surprised at that point. Because I mean, you
When
don't
live
do
like that.
I said it
every single
before. You
day.
live like that. You doing cocaine. I mean, this was a fucking business day. Imagine on his weekend. Imagine when he's not working.
Imagine when he's in Las
Imagine
Vegas.
when he's traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a crazy life. He lived a life. You could say that. I don't know if you want to say it's a good life, but he lived a life. I would say he's a good life. I mean, a lot of people fucking love him, and I've never heard anything really said bad about him or anything. Even though, I mean, it's hard to balance any kind of life with that kind of habit.
It
mean, but yeah. Oh, and one of my favorite quotes. So when Tobey Maguire, he gets in the car and Johnny Depp's Raoul Duke. He's in the back yelling at him, and he notices that Gonzo's in the front staring at him. I love. He goes, "I'm just admiring the shape of your skull." It's the craziest.
So
thing.
creepy. You're like, what?
I love that, dude. If
Yeah.
I was a fucking Uber driver, I'd say that all the time. Just to see if people catch me. Don't worry, because he says, "Oh, don't worry. I'm just admiring." That not the most serial killer thing.
It is very, very serial killer. And I love it later on too when he's like, oh, he goes, because he starts getting paranoid. You know, Johnny Depp. He goes, oh, maybe we should kill this kid and bury him in the desert. No one would know the better. And he goes, oh, Jesus, did I say that?
Yeah, he goes, did I say that out loud?
Did I say that out loud? Was I talking?
And the whole time, Tobey Maguire's just frozen in the background. He's smiling. They offer him beer and everything.
Yeah. And you hear over first person, he's like, did I say that? He goes, I glanced over at my attorney, but he seems to be oblivious.
Yeah, I love...
But that's how it is when you're on drugs. It's like you don't know what you say out loud and what you say in your head. So he's like always second guessing himself. One thing that they portrayed super well was the paranoia.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, they're after us. Hey, you know, like when they're at Circus, which I know it wasn't Circus, whatever, technically. But he's like, we don't want to get in the elevator, man. He goes, that's exactly what they want us to do. They're going to bring us down below. You know, it's always paranoia. And
that was the 60s and 70s, man, where everyone... It was the 60s. He's writing about the 60s. The entire whole thing is kind of... It's the death of the 60s.
Correct.
It's the death of the American dream, is what he says.
Well, and how much hope and just basically hope that they had in the 60s that they were going to be the generation to completely change things. And then it just kind of all fell at the whims.
Well, when the 70s... Yeah, because the 70s was all about... It was fucking excess, and everyone was... You know, everyone trying to get as much as they can and leave nothing behind. It was that kind of thing. And the 70s was the fucking spawn of serial killers. I mean, the bloody 70s.
Yes.
That's what it all was, though. 70s was just
70s
violent.
Was crazy everywhere. I mean, that was when the pandemic
violent.
With even serial killers was around, was primarily in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah, man.
It's a very strange time in American history.
It always seems to be like that, where it's like the 60s, you know, it's up, and then it's always, that's what it always kind of does. It dips and dives every fucking, except, you know, the 60s, right after 70s, it kind of leveled out where things kept getting kind of progressively shittier.
Yeah.
Like through the 80s and then like the 90s, stuff like that. But that's what the book really makes that prominent, is how the entire thing is he went down to Vegas really because he wanted to search for the American dream. Is what he calls it, and what he ends up finding out is the American dream is dead.
And they actually opened the film up with a lot of montages of the 60s, of the hippies, and Hunter S. Thompson, Johnny Depp, whatever, Raoul Duke, explaining kind of that whole thing. So,
and that's what something I think they captured so well it can't be easy, but they captured his writing style. And they somehow transferred it over to work in the movie with like that narrative style. That's how his writing is the whole time. I mean, even when he's writing like if you're in the room just talking to him, like the paranoia. You get that sense in his writing, which is very odd. But they did it perfect.
Yeah, and I love the way the movie. Is it your standard conventional movie? Absolutely not. But I totally love the way this movie was put together with that narrative piece, you know, like with him being a writer and stuff. Because, like, without it, I wouldn't have been able to follow the movie at all. But with all his commentary throughout the film, like, it really made the film into something cool and unique.
It's such an insane fucking movie, and it's really surreal. Like, I mean, you're not sure what you're seeing is real every time something happens. But then it gets so crazy, and you're watching these guys, because the first half is really just a fucking, like, them tripping, right?
Yeah.
The first half is that high. They're that high, and the entire time it's progressively getting worse and worse, and they're getting like deeper and deeper. And they talk about how once you get deep into like an ether binge or whatever, and how you can lose line, but it's them getting deeper into this trip. But it eventually just ends up all falling apart. But even though how crazy it is, like every once in a while he'll say something just fucking profound, and I'm like something that will totally stop you in your tracks and be like, oh my God, he's fucking right. Even though you're watching this insane movie where all they're doing is drugs and they're just fucking stumbling around, not knowing what they're doing, yelling at people, seeing lizards, it still has a message that's kind of profound, and you would not expect it just by
No, not at all.
the cover, just by even looking at like the movie trailer or something. You would never know what this movie is going into it. Like you said, you would never.
I had no idea either, and I was like, man, I gotta reset. I gotta reset here because this is crazy.
Yeah, you really got to do. But yeah. Well, what is the Mint 400? By the way, is what he's covering.
Adrenochrome is the other drug, but that was the drug that was made up.
It's not a real drug.
It's not a real drug. No. And ironically enough, during one of the early screenings of this, one of the there was a young man and his friends who came up to him, and the guy was like, "Oh man, you captured the adrenochrome so perfectly. That's exactly how the high was."
Yeah.
And he didn't have the stomach to tell him that, hey man,
because adrenochrome, they explain it's something that they take like from humans or whatever. It's something that it's kind of what I got it was it's kind of like DMT kind of is what I'm thinking, like liquid form, I guess.
Ayahuasca, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Just something
or
way crazier.
Toad.
But yeah, Terry Gilliam, who always makes the director, who always makes these movies that are just seem like a bad acid trip, never has done drugs.
Yeah.
Very, very odd.
Crazy, isn't
very
it?
odd.
Yeah. I love the style of shooting for this movie too, man. I really love the
well, you're one of the
15 degrees.
You're one of the few, man, because people were made when this came out, and we got to tell everyone when this came, it has a 49%. It was a box office bomb and a financial failure.
Yeah, it was definitely a failure.
It got horrible reviews. People hated it. People said they're getting sick by it, and that's what it is. And that's what watching it now that's what I think it's supposed to be. The first half is supposed to be a bad trip.
It's
supposed to disorientate you like fucking bad acid would.
That's why I had to turn it off the first 10 minutes. But after that, you'll really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And, I will say it was a complete failure when this film came out. But since then, this definitely has a cult following.
Oh, it's
that's what this movie wanted to do. Gilliam also said he wanted to make the most loved movie, but also the most hated movie at the same time.
It was never gonna do well with critics.
No, never.
But I'm glad that no one ended up, because I know they had problems making it and everything. But I'm glad no one, because with Terry Gilliam, he makes it very clear that it's his vision and no one, because he always has an insane vision that no one's gonna understand but him.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that no one tried to step in, because they could have easily tried to step in and make this movie more commercial. Yeah. Because they ended up letting him do whatever really he fucking wanted to do.
And I'm glad. Even though technically it was a failure at the box office, it ended up being a iconic film in the future.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
We should jump into when they get into the hotel at first.
Yeah.
And Raoul Duke, played by Johnny Depp, he's tripping balls. And I thought this whole movie, like, when I first watched it the very first time, I was like, oh, Benicio Del Toro is going to be the responsible one in this whole movie. It ends up being, this is the only
He's
time.
at the start.
Yeah, at the start. But that really becomes the only time that he ever is, quote unquote, sober.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie's all fucked up. I mean, more so than even Raoul Duke.
But again, it was, and you say that, but again, it was like, it's this crazy time where you could just fucking do that, and people would just try to ignore you. Yeah. No one would be like calling the cops or anything.
It's like that crazy bum on the subway that you just try not to make eye contact with. You just never make eye contact with him. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Imagine that guy, but he's trying to get a hotel room.
Yeah.
He's yelling at the fucking plants. He's
crazy.
doing... Because I love that scene, and I love the practical effects used.
Yes.
And I love the Vegas that they paint. It is, again, Vegas is like a character in this movie. You know, it's just like it's as big as Johnny Depp or that character or anyone, because it's the Vegas they paint is it's a caricature of Vegas, but it's all about like that excess, and like he had to go to Vegas because that was like the place where the American dream was gonna go to die.
Yep.
Because that's where everyone there trying to get rich, not work for anything like that. So he had to go to Vegas, and it's a horrible place that they paint in this movie.
It's not a good one.
It is horrible, man. It is a nightmare. The people, everyone is just fucking horrible in it. But I love the lizards.
That was great. Yeah, he's up there and he's trying to check out and he's all tripping balls and then all of a sudden she turns into a lizard face and you're like, what the hell is this, you know?
Yeah, and then he's really fucking tripping out. And Benicio's trying to calm him down and whatnot, and he's really freaking out. I love the way, obviously there's no CGI, especially for this film. It didn't have a huge budget.
But man, I gotta say, it looked really good, especially and I know I'm jumping a little bit, but when we saw all the lizard people and all the blood... Dude, that looked
Yeah.
fantastic. For 1998 and the budget that they had, I was like, what the fuck? This is really impressive work.
And the whole narration over it and everything like that. Yeah, and I love...
And that's what we constantly go back to. But the narration in this is really just, it's awesome. I love
Yeah,
it.
it kind of... I mean, even how crazy it always is, and just what they're seeing and everything. Because most people, they're seeing lizards, they're probably not having any kind of rational thought. But it keeps you grounded, you know?
Correct.
With that,
Yeah.
that whole...
And if you've never done drugs before, it's like he almost explains to you the type of high that you'll feel taking these different drugs.
Oh, yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, and it's... I mean, if you've never done drugs... and you see this movie, you're probably not going to want
You're not
it.
going, and that's another thing too, is they don't glorify drugs in this movie at all. It's actually, I honestly, certain parts where they were having a little bit of fun, I was like, okay. But majority of the time, this is a horrible, horrible movie as far as like what's taking place, where you're like, damn, I don't know if I ever want to do drugs ever.
Well, that was all part of the story, man. I mean, that was the whole point, where it's like the 60s were this time where people were using drugs to expand themselves, to better understand each other.
Yeah.
And then the 70s came along, and it was people were using drugs to like escape something.
Yeah.
It didn't become like enlightenment.
Enlightening.
It became this thing where
escapism.
it became escape. So people were doing drugs not for the right reason, and that's kind of what Hunter S. Thompson's whole thing is. He grew up in the 60s, or he's around the 60s and everything. So we saw his drug use, but he wasn't using drugs to escape anything. And
No.
maybe that was reason why he never had a real addiction problem or anything like that, because he was never using drugs for, I don't want to say the wrong reason, because probably anytime you're using drugs, technically it's probably wrong. I mean, as far as the law says,
Yeah,
it's
as far as the
wrong.
law
As far as
says,
the
yeah,
law,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, whether how you're using it, I mean, I don't think, I mean, personally, but yeah, so maybe that's the whole reason. But that was the whole reason this story was the 60s was this time of enlightenment, and where people were using acid and LSD to try to expand, try to better understand each other. Then the 70s came and cocaine hit, unfortunately. Cocaine.
And it hit hard.
It
70s,
cracked.
and then 80s it hit too.
And then
man.
80s
Jeez.
was, of course, the epidemic
Yeah.
and everything got really bad from there.
Yeah.
And then people really started fucking villainizing drugs, unfortunately. I mean, it's
And
hard
then
to...
it went from that in the 90s and crack cocaine,
yeah.
the pandemic of the cocaine days.
Who the government fucking introduced to the cities.
Imagine that.
They sold, something I'm sure Hunter S. Thompson was not happy about.
No.
I mean, he did not hold back when it came to fucking talking about politicians or talking about anyone, really. No one was safe when it came to, I mean...
That's the way it should be in journalism, though, and like you should...
Absolutely, and that's what he believed, because nowadays journalists are best friends with fucking everyone.
Everyone.
I mean, yeah.
Everyone. Or
so
they're
you can't
completely
really...
biased to the point where you're like, I know your game here. It's like, I'm not going to listen to you because I know how biased you are.
But I think he really felt that it should be separate. Like, he covered campaigns and stuff, but he felt like you shouldn't be best friends. Nowadays, you see, like, I mean, we'll just take from now, like, in the White House, even if it's Trump or even Obama or something, there's, like, from each side, they'll be best friends. Trump fucking, he calls Fox every morning.
Right, so he would go
so
to
I'm like,
Fox.
that's gotta be, so
exactly.
I mean...
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I agree with that, man. I think, how can you really give your real opinion if you're talking about like your best friend or something?
Right, and I
Can
think
you
like,
really
to be
give your unbiased opinion?
in order to be a fantastic, great journalist that people are going to respect and love, you have to be unbiased. You can't be friends with any of them.
Unbiased, yeah.
You have to look at the evidence for what it is and report on it.
And that's what I wish Hunter was fucking alive right now.
Oh, he
Just
would be,
imagine,
he'd be shitting his
dude.
pants, man. He'd
Just
be so,
imagine
but
what
he would
he'd
be
be
so
writing.
fucking pissed though. He'd be so pissed about the way all of this is.
Oh
is
yeah,
being
dude. Because this is
It's so dumb.
because this is exactly what he was writing about. This is what he always wrote about, and especially in this book. You know, it was. I mean, just wait till he thought the 70s were bad, and he was alive through the 80s and the 90s, and even the early 2000s. He died
2005.
Yeah, but I mean, it just got progressively worse. I feel like he'd have a lot to write about for sure. I mean, but that's the only unfortunate thing. I wish he was still fucking alive just to give us his take on this. He wrote a great he wrote a great essay about 9/11 right after it happened. That was probably the last thing that I ever saw him write.
We are back with a little technical difficulties, but I believe you were just about to ask me a question, Cash.
I asked you what some of your favorite scenes were.
Right.
Correct. And
Okay.
What were you about to tell me?
One of my favorite scenes in this movie was Benicio Del Toro when he's in the bathtub, and the bathtub water's full, and it's full of like grapefruits and all this crazy shit in there, and Raoul Duke, Johnny Depp, comes in. He's like, "Hey, what's going on, man? What's going on?" And
This
he
is
wants to.
After
This is a crazy
this
scene.
is after the circus.
Yeah, it's after the circus.
So they go to circus and they're huffing ether.
Remember
Remember they're taking breaks,
which is
and they're
great.
huffing ether. And he talks about earlier how nothing's worse than ether or an ether binge. Because
yeah.
there's no like talking to anyone on ether or something. It makes you like a zombie or whatever. So they're huffing ether and they go to like it's circus, but they couldn't get the rights to film in circus.
Yeah, so they had to call it a bazooka circus.
Yeah, and it's the exact same thing. It
It's
looks
literally what it is.
but it is horrifying in there. It's a
is.
nightmare.
I love the bar scene too when it's spinning around.
Yeah, so yeah.
And Benicio's trying to get off of it. He's like, "Come on, man!" He's trying to push him off.
Yeah, because it's Benicio's doing all right, but Raoul Duke, Johnny Depp's character, is not doing all right.
Yeah,
and I
he's
love
a little
one of my
fucked up.
favorite lines. I say it all the time is there's a guy with like a monkey or whatever, or an ape, and he's like, and then Benicio goes up to him, he's like, "All right, man, let's get down to brass tacks. How much for the ape?"
Yep.
And the guy just goes, looks at him, and just looks away. Just these two guys tripping on ether. He comes in, he's trying to haggle the guy for the monkey. But but that circus scene is very memorable because it's a nightmare of a scene. I mean,
it's very
I've
eerie, too.
been in those places where either you're a little too drunk or you're a little too high, and you're just kind of freaking
Yeah,
out.
and you start tripping, and then like you start breathing faster, and you're like,
and it
"Fuck,
feels
I
like the
gotta get out."
fucking room's closing, and everything you see just feels like it just looks like a nightmare. I mean, everything he looked at was just fucking scary. I mean, it's a place you not want to be.
In a very whimsical way.
Very surreal, like you're in a fucking painting or something. Yeah, like you're in another world. But yeah, so following that bad trip, they go back to the hotel room, and now Johnny Depp's kind of coming down, and Benicio's coming up on his high.
He is coming up.
I don't know
on that acid.
I don't know if he's coming up or down.
Well, because remember, he took all that and he goes, "Hey, you better have a fucking pill, man, or you're gonna be in some real shit in a couple hours." He's like, "Oh, fuck it, man."
Yeah.
He keeps hitting all. Keeps taking all that acid or whatever it is, and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, he
boy.
took all the acid.
He took all of it,
all. Yeah, and Johnny Depp's getting mad. He calls him a swine whore or something. He's like, because he's mad that he took all the acid.
Right, and then Benicio goes and he under his bed. Flips up the mattress and grabs the hunter's knife.
He's a gun.
He's
the
like, "Where'd you
entire
get
time
that,
also.
man?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Room service." I'm like, "Room service? What sort of
60s,
room
man.
service brings
60s.
up
They'll
hunter's
bring
knives?
you anything those days.
I mean, that's a dagger and a half, man.
bring
Cut
you
some
anything.
bread.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive. I mean, I want to know what hotel they're staying at because I want that sort of knife brought up to me.
It's the Gray Hotel. You probably don't want to stay there after they fucking stay there, though.
No, not in that room.
But yeah, so Benicio, he's in the bathtub, and he wants Johnny Depp to kill him.
I love it. Jefferson Airplanes playing. He's
Yeah,
like,
White
play
Rabbit.
White Rabbit.
White
yeah.
Rabbit,
Which
is
is
a
funny.
great. It's a great
Did you-
fucking song.
Do you know that originally Hunter S. Thompson wanted to have "Sympathy for the Devil" playing from the Rolling Stones, but they could not acquire the rights because it's so
It's a little more
expensive,
difficult.
obviously,
The Rolling
at that
Stones,
time.
of course, yeah.
So they played Jefferson Airplanes' "White Rabbit." But man, I love that scene because I love Raoul Duke, Johnny Depp's tactics in dealing with people who are tripping out on acid, who are completely unconventional, who could possibly kill you at any time. He agrees with them, but he does it in their ways where he makes them realize it instead of telling them.
And that's the kind of thing where it's like who will be this calm? And it's very obvious that it's not his first time doing acid.
It's not his first
He
rodeo.
knows. I mean,
Yeah.
especially. I mean, imagine being alive in the '60s, where you just where everyone's like. I mean, everyone you know
how
is
to
on
deal
acid.
with people on acid.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
it's so it's
wouldn't
an odd
have
thing.
the first clue because I've never been around people on acid. But
Yeah. But the way he
the
handles it
60s,
is
70s,
very,
it's
it's
all the
very
time.
real, and I guarantee,
Yeah.
and I haven't read anything about this, but I guarantee it was Hunter on there, telling him, because he knows how Hunter got started. I don't know if you know, is he joined the Hell's Angels and he wrote a big book about the Hell's Angels, but he fucking joined them to
Yeah, that's
write the
crazy.
book about him.
Yeah.
And he was like so I mean he knows. I mean he very obviously knows, but yeah, and I like how he says never turn your back on a fiend that's tripping because he's like one thing you never do is turn your back on someone that's coming off acid or something like that.
never turn your back on the drug.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, But
And I love when he's leaving the hotel room too. He just does that and he closes the door and he's always looking at him the whole
I
time.
love the part where he pretends to throw the radio in.
The radio and he throws the
freaks out.
grapefruit. He's like, "Ah."
I'll
He's
kill
like, "Why'd
you,
do
I'll
that, man?"
kill
He goes,
you.
2
Yeah.
hours of sleep, man. That's all I'm asking for. You gotta fucking chill. Just 2 hours of sleep.
That's what gave
all
me
I'm asking
that scene always gives me fucking stress is when he goes
Yeah.
to sleep. Like I don't even like
would
going to sleep at
never
a
go-
party.
No. But imagine going to sleep when someone's tripping on
You wake up, the
acid,
guy's
threatening to kill
stabbing you to death. Yeah,
Yeah. 'Cause he's
crazy.
so fucked up,
yeah,
man.
but yeah, that is a great scene, and it's just they're fucking. It's the midst of like their high, like their peak of high, and it's yeah, like you said, it shows you kind of the harsh realities, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he doesn't end up dying, though.
Especially if you do acid with someone who has violent tendencies. It's probably even worse.
Oh
'Cause
yeah,
That's what I got throughout this whole movie is that Benicio was the loathing, and Johnny Depp's character was more the fear.
Well, it's so funny because I mean, it's how crazy they act. But remember, like half an hour later, Dr. Gonzo, Benicio Del Toro, he's back at his fucking office. And he's just normal.
And he's just normal guy, a normal dude.
After
like
this
anything else.
insane week of Vegas,
And
where they're
Raoul
just
Duke's in the middle of the desert. He's like, "Where the fuck are you?"
yeah,
He
he's
goes, "I'm
back.
fucking in the middle of nowhere." And he goes, "You're kidding, right? I reserved the flamingo across the street."
Yeah, and he's
goes-
so calm about it and everything. Yeah, and I
No,
love.
I'm just kidding. I'm at the poolside right
Yeah.
now.
Oh yeah, because he lies to him. Because
Yeah, he
remember,
lies to him.
he's getting out of town because he thinks the cops are after him.
And he's going through a lot of shit in the process.
Yeah, very crazy.
Not the cops, man. The government.
I love,
CIA.
but I love the cop, the Gary Busey who pulls him over.
Man, what a great job, and what a
I
fantastic
love
job
that
of
scene.
improv
It's
too.
so fucking bizarre,
It is
dude. And if you're on acid,
strange.
you are gonna be freaking out. And I love at the very end he goes, "Give me a kiss,"
Yeah.
and he just looks at him. He's like, "No thanks, man."
Yeah.
They're just
And that whole scene's improv, or not the whole scene, but I mean that particular instance in that scene was complete improv. That wasn't in the script at all, but they liked it so much that they ended up keeping it in. And if you watch that original take, watch Johnny Depp. I think it's the only time I've ever seen him slightly break character.
Well, you can see he didn't see it coming.
No, he didn't, because he was
He's-
like, but it was like a legit Johnny Depp. Like I almost was looking at Johnny Depp like, what?
Unfortunately, it's
it's
probably just Gary Busey being Gary Busey. He's an insane
He's
man.
insane. And
He's
this
an
was
insane
right
man.
after the accident, too, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, it was right when he started slipping, for sure. For sure.
Well, Gary Busey's crazy, but we all appreciate that,
course.
about him. I mean,
course,
we all know Gary's a little,
He's been in some great movies.
yes.
His brother, what's his name? Like Bruce Busey or something? He's in Stranger Things. We'll talk about
sweet.
later, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's got big old chompers, too. Gary's got big teeth,
Does
big.
he?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Gary.
Gary,
yeah, of course.
everyone in his family does, yeah. But yeah, and so yeah, the next morning after that whole thing, they wake up and Dr. Gonzo, he's just gone.
I don't know where just bailed on him, and
Yeah.
I love it. I love it too. Like you got to think about the responsibility of room service, where he's like, Johnny Depp's going into this self monologue thing where he's like, "Well, we've ordered $48 of room service, and this equals out to every 2 hours. For the last 48 hours, we have ordered $40 of food, or whatever it was, 36, something crazy." And it's like, at some point, that bill has got to get paid, right? You're not just going to keep putting that on the room.
Oh, dude,
At some
60s,
point, that's a
yeah.
responsibility of the hotel.
You just leave. You just leave and never
Insane.
show up. There's no credit cards. They can't track you.
That's true.
You just
and then,
leave.
And then when the hotel or when the clerk came in with the food, he fucking pointed a gun at him. He's just, "Don't say anything." It's like, man, what?
Well, at that time, I'm guessing they just want to keep their jobs. You don't want
Yeah,
to
at that
risk
time,
anything.
yeah.
You don't want to risk anything. I mean, you just gonna go, and it's Vegas, dude.
It is Vegas.
Imagine me a bell fucking hop in Vegas.
I got to tell you one of my favorite scenes too, because I think we surpassed it, or I think we passed it. And I want to bring it up. You remember when the maid comes in, and Benicio tackles her right away? And then
That's
Johnny Depp-
later. That's
Oh,
later.
it is later. Okay, then never.
That's
mind.
when she gets.
That is right. That's
we
the
can talk about it
second
because
trip
that's
back to
when
Vegas.
that's with Lucy off the plane. Mary, he took Lucy, who was an under, who was played by
Yeah.
Christine Ricci, young
Right.
Christine Ricci.
And that was
coming
one
off
of her
her
last
cast-
roles, wasn't it? Because she was a child actress, and then she kind of faded away. I didn't really see her
No,
in
Christine
much.
Ricci's in a ton of things.
What is she in these days?
I just saw her in. She played. She played what's the gal's name who killed her parents with the axe? She played Lizzie Borden on a Netflix show.
Oh, really?
She was also in Black Snake Moan with Samuel. Of
see, I
course, she
didn't
plays
see
the main
that one.
character. Yeah, she's been in a ton of things. Dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Christina Ricci. She is. I used to love her growing up, man. Remember her in Casper?
Casper, yes, iconic.
That's peak.
Wasn't she in Adam's Family or whatever too?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
dude. She plays Wednesday Addams, an amazing Wednesday Addams. But yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, she's still working.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, she works all the time.
She's a great actress. She does a good job in this though too. I mean, how limited her role is.
Yeah, she does.
There's a ton of great cameos in this.
There's so many cameos that we haven't gotten into. Like Penn and Teller or Teller, whatever his name is. He was
in the
one of the
circus.
Yeah, he was
in
the circus guy.
yeah.
I was like, hey, that's Teller. I'm like, what the fuck? But it's such a
Right before that scene in the circus, Benicio he tells him, he says, because Mary's tripping out, he's like, "There's two ladies fucking a polar bear over there," and Johnny goes, "Don't tell me that shit right now."
Don't tell me that shit right now. And then she comes over, the waitress, and he's like, "Oh, how'd you like fucking that polar bear?" She's like, what did he just say to me?
There's two ladies fucking a Don't tell me that. And I love Benicio's delivery of every time when Johnny Depp does something crazy. He goes, "As your attorney, I'd advise you to take the bottle out of my bag." Yeah. Every time it's just advising him to do more drugs. Not great advice from your attorney.
No, I would say
usually
not the wisest attorney
usually
around.
this will tell you the opposite.
Yeah,
to just keep you, but also really good attorney.
Yeah,
one that's gonna be down
time. I mean,
there.
At least you're having fun.
What
if
kind
you're
of other
pay him $50, $100 an hour, you might as well have some fun with him. Right?
Yeah, I can't imagine what kind of payment he was getting.
Oh God, quite a bit. So probably all paid in drugs.
That's what I'm guessing, man. I'm guessing it was just some mutual things. What
Drugs
kind of attorney goes on a business trip with you when you're a journalist? What kind of journalist has a lawyer?
Strange relationship.
They're really, I think they're just good buddies. You know,
Probably.
They just kept it professional, but they were good buddies. Yeah, and so the next morning he wakes up and all he sees is the room service bill. Then that's what you're talking about, yeah. But and eventually the highway patrol stop and he sees remember he sees Tobey Maguire's character again.
That's so funny. He's driving. He's wearing that like evil Mickey Mouse shirt, which is that's art from someone. I can't remember. Oh, from the illustrator
who's done all of
did all of Hunter S. Thompson's artwork for Fear and Loathing.
Well, he did artwork. They worked very close together for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's very famous. He has a very particular art style. I can't remember his name though. But there's a ton of stuff like that.
Should we jump into all because like this movie is kind of weird where we can jump around everywhere.
Oh yeah.
We should talk about just some of the cameos in general.
Yeah.
Right. So like the Cameron Diaz cameo. What do you think about that?
I totally forgot about
scene.
it. Yeah, that's a young Cameron Diaz, my guy.
That's a mighty fine.
That's
Cameron
a young
Diaz, my friend.
That lady could she could she could start wars.
Yeah, and I understood
She could
why
start
Benicio
wars.
felt like he was in love with her the first time he met her in that elevator.
Because remember when they meet, and it's also the photographer that he just fired.
that he just fired. Yeah,
and we didn't even talk about it, but I mean, I say I love every scene, but I love the scene when he goes to the race or whatever, and it's like a war zone. Remember,
it's literally a war zone, and they run into those guys and we're like, "Hey,
so
we're on your team."
bizarre.
Man.
Yeah, he goes,
They got a deer on top of it.
He goes, "What outfit you from?" And it's so weird because remember they're in like an army truck. Mm-hmm. It's right in the middle of this like giant
and they got a 50
race.
cal on top too, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
And Johnny Depp, and then he's all Christian. I mean, Raoul Duke. He's high, of course. So everything he's seeing, and even being sober and seeing that, you'd be like, "Where the fuck am I?" Just being stoned to the gills.
Yeah, and a giant deer flayed on top of the front of the car too. You're like, what the fuck
and
world
the guy's
am I
like,
in?
he's yelling at him, but crazy stuff. But Cameron Diaz, great.
So
I mean, she didn't really do much,
No.
but what she did, great work,
job.
great work, absolutely.
I loved seeing Flea in this too. That was fucking awesome.
Flea,
he was the weird
awesome.
guy in the bathroom with the one business guy who was like looking at him like they're crazy. He was doing cocaine and shit off of Depp. In the bathroom.
Yeah,
that was
I forgot
Flea.
about that. Yeah, that was awesome.
Flea has done a lot of really awesome cameos in movies too. Like Back to the Future is one of them.
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver as well. Yeah, he did a really good job.
He's acted in a few things that he's done really good. He's a good actor. Yeah, he's a crazy kind of person where you can insert him and just tell him to act like yourself, and he's kind of just already a character. But yeah, I thought that was really awesome.
Well, I love even in Toy Story 4. Yeah.
I like the scene a lot where they go. Remember, they're trying to go and because he wants to go to the show, Dr. Gonzo. Mary's, and they're talking to the guys trying to get tickets or whatever.
Yes.
And they won't allow him in.
Yep.
And he goes in there, and they're immediately, and it doesn't say why, but 30 seconds later, they're kicked out.
Kicked out already.
People are carrying him out, and they're just
As the guy's
busting
counting
up
his
laughing.
money.
I'm
Yeah.
cracking up. Because what they go and do? Immediately go in there and yell something? Because as soon as they shut those doors, they're being carried
Yeah.
out.
But that goes to show you that no matter what, they could never just be normal.
No.
They always had to be outlandish. And
Yeah, and I love that.
cause problems.
I love
yeah,
that.
It's
yeah,
great.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, it's like it's 60s Vegas, so it's a lot of people from like suburbia or whatever going to get away and catch a show or whatever, and they're just fucking with everyone, every kind of
single person
square. Because and that's especially true. Remember when they go and they're staying at the same hotel where all the cops are staying.
Yes.
Well, that's later, and he has to
And
cover
it's
it
a
also.
drug
He's-
convention, an
Yeah.
anti-drug convention.
But it's this whole thing about it, and it's funny, whatever. But it's this whole thing about it was like this giant group of cops talking about stuff. Because remember the advice they're giving about drugs and stuff. It's all shit they had no idea.
None.
They're giving like the
At
most
all.
like it's so obvious.
And
that
can
people-
we talk about the irony of that convention where every single cop is smoking a cigarette?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? I mean, goodness gracious, come on.
But again,
the
it was
irony in
that
that.
turn of the '60s, and it's that turn
Mm-hmm.
of where cops started fucking targeting people and whatnot and stuff like that, and it
And it does a good job of showing that, even in the small amounts that we get. And that guy, who was that actor that led that convention? The guy with the mustache. He was also in Air Bud. I think his name's Michael Jeter, right?
yeah, Derek Jeter's brother.
Yeah, Michael Jeter. Oh, he died in 2003 though. But he was also in Air Bud. You remember he was the bad guy in Air Bud?
I don't know, man. I haven't seen Air Bud in a long,
Are you shitting me?
long time.
Come on, man.
It's
He's in
fucking
Green
Air
Mile.
Bud.
He's
Oh.
in Green Mile too. He plays Edward Delacroix.
Let me look at his face.
Jurassic Park 3. Come on, you know.
Oh,
who
he's
he
a
is.
character actor.
Yeah.
He's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, but he was the head of the convention. Remember, he's smoking the cigarette. And he's like,
I do. What
Yeah.
I know him for is he played Mr. Noodle from Elmo's World in Sesame Street. That's where I know him
Yes,
from.
that's the same too. Yeah, I was a big Elmo guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty
too.
sure he died of like
Complications from unresponsive state brought by
I think
a
it was-
severe seizure.
oh, I guess it was epilepsy. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he was a gay man. He had
Yes,
HIV.
he was gay. Yep.
That's what I remember. Yeah, he's in a ton of stuff. But
He
yeah,
was awesome.
I
miss
remember
him,
I
man.
remember
miss
most
him
from
so
Jurassic Park
much.
3.
Yeah,
I'm
Jurassic
kidding,
Park
because remember
3,
he gets
yeah.
ape
He gets
immediately right at the
fucked up.
start. It's a
Yeah.
very sad scene too because he's
It is.
crying. But yeah, it's hilarious. I totally forgot. Yeah, and he plays a really good scene in Green Mile too. Remember the mouse?
Can you not depress me? I'm trying to I'm trying to watch this movie.
We got to
for
review
us.
Green
Yeah,
Mile
we
sometime.
do.
When we
Someday
need a
we
good
do.
cry.
Yeah,
We got
for sure. Me and you will just be sobbing hysterically. It'll be our therapy. It's cheaper.
John Coffey. R.I.P. my guy.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Michael Clark Duncan. That's his real name.
Yes, Michael Clark Duncan.
I
Yeah,
could
he
not-
died in 2011,
I
12?
couldn't remember what his real name was,
Yeah.
but yeah, he does. Yeah, but
We got to talk about Christopher Meloni as the Flamingo Hotel clerk.
oh yeah, he's in a ton of stuff. I love that scene too because the guy's such an asshole. The fucking cop guy is yelling at him.
Such a prick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
And
the
of
thing.
course,
It's the thing you
because
see
that's
all the time. But, yeah.
stereotypical. Yeah, you see those people who are just unhappy with life and have to complain about every little thing.
But I
'cause
love
you're a
Depp
cunt.
comes up and they're like best friends.
Yes,
And I love that scene. I love the scene where it shows him what he wants to say. Remember, he does kind of the fantasy thing and he's telling him
Yeah.
off and he's going
He goes,
crazy.
listen, motherfucker. Yeah, I love it. It's so funny.
He does a great impression of a gay guy for some reason. I
He
don't
does
know.
a really
It's
good
very
job.
funny.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
very
funny,
authentic
yeah.
too. He actually is. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that is hilarious. But
There are a ton of cameos. I mean, we could almost talk an hour about all the cameos in this movie.
yeah, Vern
It really is a
Troyer is in it.
R.I.P.
Mini Me.
too, man.
R.I.P.
God.
I didn't know this would be such a depressing episode.
I know it's such a. I know all these people have died. It's like, whew,
Yeah.
and have died. A lot of them died from suicide.
And Harry Dean Stanton is a great character actor. Man, he's playing the judge when he's doing the fantasy about how he's going to get locked away and whatnot.
who
and
has also
everything.
passed.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton, man. Talk about a character actor. He's been in
Yeah.
so many fucking things. But
But
yeah,
you know,
also
he
passed.
actually lived a good life. He was 91 years old, so
He lived a long life. I don't know if it's a good life.
Well, I'm assuming it's a good life. I mean, he got to
Of
do what he
course.
loved, acting.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. And he was
But,
in everything. He was in a ton of shit.
Yeah.
His filmography is very long.
He also
Look at that.
served too. Good on him.
Yeah.
Look at that filmography. That's quite impressive.
I forgot he plays the dad in Red Dawn. Christine, Repo Man.
Even in the Avengers,
He was
in the
even
Avengers,
Rango,
too.
another Johnny Depp movie.
Didn't he play Captain America in the Avengers?
He
Or no,
did.
I'm wrong on that. Aren't
Oh.
I? Yeah, no.
I can't remember who he played in the Avengers.
No,
The
neither
first
do I.
Avenger?
I have no idea.
Harry Dean Stanton? I don't know. Yeah, but there's so many good, and that's what kind of makes this movie a classic.
It does.
because it's all these people were brought together for a film that I'm not really sure. I really think
Bond?
I really think it was the pull of Hunter at this time in the late '90s. He was kind of like
An iconic figure in a sense, as
almost
far
like a
as journalism.
legend,
Yeah,
kind of, where they did, and he was Hunter. He was really good friends. He was a friend with like a large spectrum of people. Like
he was really
Jack
good friends with Johnny
Nicholson.
Depp too, which helps in any case.
Yeah, they were really good friends. Johnny Depp was at his funeral.
He was, and he actually shot his ashes.
He did.
out
He
of a
paid for
cannon.
that. Yeah, what
Yeah.
what he always wanted to do.
That's pretty awesome.
But yeah. Let's talk about the big trip scene. Well, that's when so Dr. Gonzo comes. Dr. Gonzo, his attorney, he meets him again in Vegas, and that's after he gets lost. He meets him again in Vegas, and they kind of do the whole thing over
They
again.
do twice.
This
Well,
time even worse.
Well, because that was
because
funny
they
too,
really ruined that
because these
room.
were actually two separate, and I know you know this, but more so for the audience. These were actually two separate not articles, but what's the word I'm looking for? Two different articles written. I'll just say two different stories written, but they had to combine them together. So what they did is they had Benicio Del Toro's character say that, "Hey man, where are you supposed to be? I got us a hotel at the Flamingo." When really they're supposed to be two separate occasions of them going to Las Vegas. But for the movie, they had to combine it together, so that's what they did.
Oh yeah. And when he actually went to Las Vegas, I think it was like he wrote it over like a month or something. He was like down there, and this happens in a few days or whatever, obviously to make it more concise.
Condensing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, and I love Dr. Gonzo. He met this girl on a plane. She's like 16. She's really young.
She's very young. Yeah.
And
again,
Johnny
it
Depp
goes-
immediately knows it's going to cause problems. And he gave her acid on the plane. And then he tells her that
And
she's
got
never done
all
any.
the-
She's
I
a
love-
Jesus freak. And she went down to Vegas to meet Barbara Streisand. And she's never had alcohol.
500 paintings of Barbara Streisand, and they're shit.
She brought 'em with her.
Yeah, she did.
Fucking weirdly.
God damn, how much was that?
I don't know.
A lot extra, I'm assuming. I mean, these days you pay $60
Yeah,
for a
but
bag
I think in
on
the
a plane.
60s, man, it was probably
They
like a
didn't give a
$2
shit.
fee. You could
Load
take
them all up.
Yeah, we don't care. We'll do it.
Okay. Well, and that's the thing too. To go back to this film, since we're jumping around, when he's trying to go get Benicio Del Toro, Johnny Depp, back to the airport, he literally just drives through the goddamn fence. The fence is still on the car, and then he's there, and there's no airport security back then.
No.
None.
He literally
just drove
drives
all
him
the way
up,
to
and he
the
drove through a
plane.
fence.
Yeah, through.
Yeah.
No one thought any wiser. They didn't care at all.
Well, that's the end, man. That's when it all kinds of turns. It
does.
turns at some point, and it's to signify the trip wearing off and whatnot, and how it gets really, really fucking low. Like it's
Yeah, it does.
that great high, how any drug is, and it's that fucking lows once you start coming down, and it gets really fucking low. We gotta talk about one of my favorite scenes. It's not a real funny scene, but it's a scene where. It's a scene where I think when I first watched it, it's a scene where I started figuring out what this movie was about, what it really was about. It wasn't about a trip or taking drugs or anything.
No.
It was, again, it's about, because that scene with the diner scene, when, it gets very fucking real. When Benicio
Very,
starts
very real.
threatening her with the knife and how he's going to fucking kill her.
Well, because he put
it, like, takes all the air out of the room.
baby on the napkin, and she's like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And she spits in his face.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like that.
No.
Takes his hunter's knife out that he got from the hotel.
Yeah. A great knife, dude.
Great
Looks like
knife.
a great
I mean,
knife.
it looks like a really well-built knife.
Mm-hmm.
Hits it on the counter a couple times, and she knows that she fucked up because
Yeah,
she
dude.
called him a spick. What was it? A spick pimp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that you don't do that. You don't say those kind of things to people like that. And he was pissed about it.
Well, it was kind of this whole thing where they were treating everyone like that throughout the entire
they were
movie.
treating
But
everyone
once
like
once
shit.
the drugs started wearing off and it got very real and it's not it didn't become fun anymore.
No.
She was kind of the first person to kind of snap him out of it, and he didn't like that, of course. I mean, obviously not, but yeah, it becomes a very real scene, and it's like the
does.
entire movie's kind of real light, but then at some point it turns. And then you get there, and it's the real fucking message across. Yeah, but yeah, and then he takes him to the airport, and he's just fucking going through gates, and he's
Crazy, man.
crashing through shit, and
I thought the acting in that scene was actually really good in that diner scene, because like he's like two ice waters. And she's like, "Oh, I've had enough." And she picks her ass, her wedgie out of her ass as she's grabbing the ice. Like, it was all really, really well acted. And also, the other part I liked about it is he threatens to, which I didn't like this part, but I like the foreshadowing, is he basically threatens to slit her throat.
He does,
He knew that she was scared of that knife because some other guy threatened her with a knife before.
Yeah.
And you remember not Hunter S. Thompson, but Johnny Depp's narration of that too.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about that, how they kind of knew, or Benicio knew. So it was a very good scene, very, very tense too, man.
It is.
Very uneasy. And one thing about this movie that's so fascinating to me is normally, like, when I watch movies and I look at characters, I go, I either like them or I don't. But this movie almost brings you to like a third person perspective where you're almost just observing, as if you're like you're a god in the sky, instead of really being invested into the characters, because these characters are so shitty, they're so bad.
Yeah.
But you don't hate them, but you don't like them either. It's almost like you're observing what they're doing.
Well,
You get what
they're
I'm saying on
fucking
that?
yeah. They're
And I like the way that the director was able to portray the characters. 'Cause
they're
that's
a
a
mess.
tough thing to do.
The people are a mess, and the fucking movie is a literal and physical mess.
Yes.
I mean, it's if you're just watching it for the first time, you're thinking, I mean, what
the fuck
this
is
movie
this?
is a fucking wreck.
Well, think about the first couple scenes. I mean, you could so obviously tell that the audio was dubbed over in the car, but I liked it. I don't know why, because it was fucking chaos, man.
I love the quote he gives when Benicio, Dr. Gonzo, he's boarding the plane. I'll read it.
That's my favorite
Saying,
quote.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to, but he goes, watching Gonzo leave, he goes, there he goes, one of God's own prototypes, a high-powered mutant of some kind, never even considered for mass production, too weird to live and too rare to die. What a great, I just want it fucking tattooed all over my body.
Too weird to live, too rare to die. I might get that tattooed on my body until I die.
And that's really, it really did encapsulate Dr. Gonzo.
Totally.
You know, he's one in a
Exactly.
fucking billion. He's just this crazy larger than life character that he had to die. I mean, he couldn't live on. It's someone like that just can't. In this society, it's kind of thing where you can't have him.
No,
you can't have him because he puts a he ruins the cog of the machine. He's gonna make people do things and whatnot, and think outside of their own lives and maybe think freely. So
That's what I liked
He had
about
to go.
Raoul Duke, though, is I never got a sense from that character that he ever hated people or liked people. He was kind of with people. As like he took his job to a whole nother level where it was like everything he did in life, it was almost an observance and almost reporting on, even with his best friends.
Well, I think he's us in a sense. Raoul Duke is, he's that audience. He's that person looking in and whatnot, and we're kind of supposed to be him. We're the kind of ones looking in and whatnot.
He just so happens to be the guy, who's reporting on it.
Yeah,
kind of us as well.
Yeah, and I love it. And there's so many good. We didn't talk about. There's so many good quotes that they're just
a million. I mean, there were too many. I watched this the second time I watched through it. I almost started writing quotes down, and I was like, it's almost impossible because there's like 200 really great quotes throughout this movie, but you have to pay attention. Because they're kind of like slowly put in there like throughout the film.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You do have to pay attention.
And it's not even that you have to pay attention. Is once you kind of get them, you kind of got to digest them. You kind of got to. I mean, this is one of those movies where you can just go to the page of quotes. You don't even need to see the movie, and you can just read the quotes, and you're gonna find something, something profound or something. It's one of those where it's. Because obviously they're taking quotes from the book, but the book is so good where. I think. Well, here's the turning point. This is what we kind of talked about. This is kind of the halfway mark, where he's talking about the 60s and what it was and whatnot. He says, and that I think was the handle, the sense of, I got to do my Hunter S. Thompson impression.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to do it. Go.
And that I think was the handle, the sense of the inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense, we didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. We had all the momentum in the world. We were riding the crest of high and beautiful wave. Now, less than 5 years later, you can see the steep hill in Las Vegas and look west. And with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high water mark, that place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. But he's talking about, fucking the 60s, how
Yes.
it was this high point, and maybe the highest point in fucking human evolution.
Probably.
I mean, it was.
I'm actually super jealous of people in the 80s, man. I mean, like, they seemed very enlightened.
Yeah, man. If I could go back to almost any era, I think it'd be the 60s.
It'd be the
Just,
60s.
and like he says,
undoubtedly. And the music,
and
too.
another
I mean,
quote, and another
revolutionary.
quote he says, it's like, I mean, just reading back, it feels like there was something was happening. But he talks about it, he's like, it was kind of that sense everywhere, where they weren't fighting any wars or whatever, but they're all making steps to a better place and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, it was a crazy. Even politicians in the 60s. I mean, with the
Nixon?
well, yeah, well, Nixon was that later. Nixon was
60. Wasn't he 68? Or no, never mind.
Nixon's
No,
campaign trail was 70.
70s.
Because Fear and Loathing campaign trail
That's
was
right.
Nixon's. He was because or Hunter S. Thompson was following Nixon around because he fucking hated Nixon.
Yeah, that's right. That's
He
right.
did
Yeah.
not, man. He did
69 to
not.
74.
Yeah,
So I was 1 year off.
yeah, it was. But it was. I mean, it was the end. By 69, it
Right,
was all,
yeah.
it was all coming to an end, and it was very obvious. I mean, it was so obvious that you can even usually you can't tell what's happening being in the decade. We don't know. We don't know how people are going to look back at the 2000s or whatever.
Isn't that fascinating?
But it feels
think
like
about?
being there. They knew that this was going to be, and that it kind of had to fucking end. He
Well,
says
well,
you can
we
go
know-
and view
we
the high
know,
water mark.
Cash, we know how crazy this period in American history will be in 25 years.
I
We
do.
know.
I think it's
We
one of
are in
those.
another
I think it's one of those rare
revolutionary-
times. Yeah, you're right. I think it's one of those.
a very rare
yeah.
time in American history.
It is, and
right
it's
now.
such an odd
It's
sense
crazy.
waking up, reading something, and be like, "Oh, people are gonna be talking about this 100 years from now."
Undoubtedly, we are living in a very, very
Because I
pivotal
could
time
not,
in American
say,
history.
yeah,
It's
and we're
crazy.
not very old, but I can't say that even about any time. But even talking to people, they're like, yeah, you don't really know your living history, but now it definitely feels like
Mhm.
we know. So maybe we'll get another Hunter S. Thompson out of it. Maybe we'll get something crazy. Out of all this
hope.
kind of shittiness, we'll get
Yeah.
something great like this.
I hope so.
I hope we need something out of it.
I love
We
people
gotta
who
get
live. I love people who live lives like this, man. I mean, I find it so fascinating. It's something I'd love to do. This would be such a fun
Same dude. And
career
if anyone's
path.
listening right now, hire me and I'll go and I'll do fucking all the drugs I have to do. I'll be right in the middle
Well,
of
here's
everything.
the thing too. Yeah, exactly.
I'll do it. Just pay me.
Maybe me and you should do a second podcast where we go out and just do crazy shit like this.
It'd be
Go out and
interesting.
report on things.
It'd be interesting. I know, but it's a fine line of being a reporter and just being just a guy on drugs at whatever event or
but if
whatever.
you're motivated, you can do both.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's that fine line of how people view you. So you got to be paid. We can't just go out and get
Right.
high.
Just get fucked
Because then
up
we're
and
just
then-
everyone else. We're
Yeah.
just everyone else.
Everyone else
Yeah.
with a podcast.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that fine line where if you can get fucked up and still do work like Hunter S. Thompson somehow fucking managed, no matter what. You got to read his Kentucky Derby. He went to report on the Kentucky Derby and he just got fucking hammered. He ended up doing this big, and everything he ended up reporting on, he never ended up really reporting on it. It always ended up being this giant big story that always ended up being bigger than the event. Like he went to report on the Kentucky Derby, but really he was reporting on fucking like different classes and the government and everything like that. It always ended up being something larger than the actual event. Like this, he's going.
But see, that's what's fascinating to me is because when you are on substances, when you are on a different realm, you're able to see different perspectives that you would never see as a sober person. Ever,
very interesting.
man.
Yeah.
It is, and that's why I think he was so special.
But it's
for-
also a thing like, could you even do it now? Could you even get away with it?
Oh, you could.
I
Not to these levels. I'm not saying to
Not
this
to the
movie. This
historic-
movie's fabricated.
Not to the Hunter S. Thompson level where
Right.
he was reporting on presidential stuff and everyone even knew the kind of person he was. Nowadays, I don't know if people are even going to want to hire you if they know you're going to be high off your ass.
But that's the
everywhere you
beautiful
go.
thing, Cash.
You
You
don't
don't
tell
have to be
anyone?
hired. No, you don't have to be hired anywhere. You can literally start your own channel. You can start your own anything.
Yeah, but he was
We
hired.
have the internet.
He was
well,
hired.
of course, because we're talking about the 70s before the internet's around.
Yeah.
If Hunter S. Thompson had the internet, he'd probably have the single biggest podcast or biggest whatever for journalism. For Gonzo journalism.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
I really believe that. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
I don't
Come
think
on.
he
You
would
would
have.
love to hear Hunter S. Thompson 3-hour rambles at 3 a.m. talking about, hey, and then I went to
I
the
would, but
Kentucky
I don't
Derby,
think
and then
I
I
don't think
noticed
he
the
would
different
love it.
classes of.
I don't think he'd be the kind of person that would kind of do something like that.
Really? You think it's
No.
only on paper?
Yeah, he was a journalist. That's what he loved, and again, that's the kind of thing where you can't really do that. Where it's just journalism, you know.
Right. Well, I'm not even saying Hunter S. Thompson, but if we even get someone who's a modern day Hunter S. Thompson, I really believe they do journalism and also podcast as well. Because what's a better recollection of going over events than to have a podcast and also journalism at the same time?
Yeah, maybe
You get two formats.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, now I think you even you can't just do journalism. Unfortunately,
No, you can't.
Which
No,
would,
you
I
have to
think
have
I think
multiple
I think
outlets.
that would upset him because he was a journalist. Well, actually, he wanted to be a novelist, but he just ended up being. I mean, he was just one of the greatest fucking journalists of all time. So you got to do what you got to do, and of course, he ended up writing novels and stuff. We're actually only ended up writing one actual novel that was fiction. That's The Rum Diary, which also stars Johnny Depp. I don't know if you ever saw that, but
No, I haven't.
yeah, and that's another one where he's just doing drugs the entire time.
Perfect.
It's the same thing, yeah. It's pretty good. But yeah, he lived a crazy life, man. He ran for mayor or he ran for sheriff at one point of Aspen. Almost won.
Really? Wow.
That's the kind of person he is, man. He could do
Yeah.
anything. Fucking anything. And they didn't win. Can you imagine a world where people don't vote for Hunter S. Thompson as sheriff? What a crazy, crazy world.
Strange world.
I would want him, man. He loved guns.
Be fun. Well, it'd be fun.
He was a big gun nut for sure.
Yeah?
He loved guns. Yeah, but he also but he lived in Colorado where you can go shoot guns out of your backyard.
They're trying to pass shrooms. Or no, they did.
They did, man.
They did pass.
And that's
shrooms.
another. We can kind of talk about that, but he even has a quote about. Fuck, I'll try to find the quote, but yeah, man, it's crazy now that because he talked about it back then about people that were doing psychedelics to better help their psyche, like depression and stuff. Now they're fucking actually doing real tests about it. It's nuts. The kind
insane,
of
man.
progression that.
Well, and I think like
It's insane
I
that
think
it
now
hasn't
our
happened
country-
earlier.
Yeah, I think now our country as one giant society as the United States of America, we will pass the legalization of marijuana in all 50 states. I'm not saying it's going to happen next
Yeah.
year or anything, but in the next 10 to 15 years, there's no reason because now that these other states like Washington, Oregon, Colorado, California, we're all starting to legalize it. I think it's going to open up a lot of people's perspective and be like, you know what, weed is not what we thought it was for 80 years. It wasn't that bullshit propaganda that we saw in the 1920s with those racist fucking ads saying that it's the devil's lettuce and that it makes
when he
people
goes to the
rape
fucking
people,
when
you know.
Raoul Duke goes to the.
Have you ever
the,
smoked weed and wanted to rape someone? Me? No. I can honestly say I've never wanted to rape someone on
Let me
weed.
think.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No?
Okay. So
Had to think about it. Not even once.
No.
No, dude. It's all fucking.
It's all propaganda.
Yeah,
That's
it's all
it's
because the
ever been.
cigarette companies didn't want. I mean,
Right.
they outlawed hemp. Hemp you can't even
Well,
fucking smoke
yeah.
it. It's just
Thank
good
God.
rope. Makes a good rope, and they outlawed that.
Yeah.
But again, you say, and then there's polar opposite states where it's like Idaho, where they'll arrest you just on the suspicion that you
Which
have
is
weed.
so stupid. Or
Immediately
Florida
take you to
cracks
jail.
down on that shit too, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
dude.
dude, Florida out of all
Yeah.
places.
So
you
we say how
fucking-
progressive it is, but some places are moving fucking backwards.
and,
I think.
and those are the states I'll never move to. You
Oh,
get what
yeah,
I'm saying?
avoid at
Like,
all
for
costs.
real.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't even vacation there. You know, fuck you. You're not getting my.
Well,
you're
it's
not getting my
mostly states
vacation
like
dollars
Mississippi and stuff where you
where
don't
you
want
don't
to
want to vacation in the first place. Yeah.
But we talk about it, but yeah, again, I would love to get Hunter S. Thompson's take on it. I mean, I think he'd be amazed to find out that mushrooms are being legalized. It's crazy, man. It's crazy that it hasn't happened in a long, long time ago because. I mean, people were talking about psychologists were talking about it in the '60s. How it was crazy. They all called them nut jobs. You know, they called them insane,
and they weren't.
and they ruined
There's
their
so
career.
many-
It ruined
yeah,
their
it's
career.
so
And
sad,
it was
man.
such
It's
a
actually-
taboo thing. But
But
now
you
we
know
have
what?
actual colleges and universities doing
Exactly.
fucking actually
And
experiments.
history will look back positively on those people. And that's why it's okay. If you believe in what you believe, you got to take a stand, man.
Oh
And that's
yeah.
the thing, because we will look back at those scientists or whatever who came out and was like, hey, man, there are a lot of positive benefits to these things. We'll look back a very positive way on their names.
I hope so,
that's what's
man. I
important.
hope we should. We should fucking make a Mount Rushmore of those people that fucking ruin their career in something, in search of something that they believed in, because it did fucking ruin these people. If you saying acid or LSD or whatever was that you're thinking that it could help you in either way, people just said you're a drug addict.
You know what? Like, realistically, it has fried some people's brains because they don't have moderation.
But again, it's people taking it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
To escape something. I don't think you should.
Never take drugs for escapism.
Exactly. I
That's
do
where
really
your
hold.
problem
I do
is.
really do hold the belief that you shouldn't take drugs. But of course, once you're really taking drugs for escapism, you're in that clutch of you can't really stop.
You really
taking
don't
them.
believe in taking drugs at all, ever?
No,
Not even
no, I don't
experimental?
believe in taking drugs for escapism.
Oh, for escape?
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, if
totally.
you're taking them to have fun, fucking do whatever you want. Hell yeah, brother.
brother.
Get those
Thank you,
drugs.
Hulk
I'm all,
Hogan.
yeah, I am all for it. But yeah, but like I said, once you're taking drugs like heroin to escape something, I
Exactly. That's
think
the
you're
problem.
escaping the withdrawal.
Yeah.
So you got to keep. It's a
Totally.
sticky situation. I don't believe in taking. I would never do heroin or anything like that.
Fuck no,
Yeah.
neither would I.
But stuff
I'd
that's-
never do meth. I'd never do heroin.
Yeah.
Any of that shit. But,
Stuff
like,
that's
I
made
do
in a lab or
experimental
what? Stuff that's made
All
in a
I've
lab.
ever done, all I've ever done is smoke. That's it, man. So it's like I've never experienced like shrooms or anything like that. But
Yeah, well,
eventually,
stuff,
one day, I would like to try that. One
yeah,
day.
well, stuff grown from the ground. I say, hey, it's el
It's
natural,
natural, yeah,
man.
exactly.
I mean, it's a lot.
Imagine the first Neanderthals to discover shrooms. What that was like for them. You know what I'm saying?
Fucking
Eating those
awesome.
mushrooms. And they're like,
I'm
"What
sure they
is
did not
going
live very
on?"
long.
No,
I'm
probably
wondering
not.
how trying to ride a
Probably
T-Rex.
killed
or
themselves.
something.
Yeah, something stupid. But
Well, I know. This is a fun little drug fact. Is I know of before when they were eating a lot of rye bread in like the 1700s and 1800s. Is that's what they thought witches were from.
Yes.
Because they would eat them and they trip
Yeah,
out and they'd be like, "This guy's a fucking witch, burn his ass." And I think that's a theory. But a lot of rye old bread made a lot of people fucking trip out.
it made a trip out. No, for real.
And
Because
they burned them
they
for
were,
it.
It was psilocybin, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
man. And they
It
fucking
was making them hallucinate, and they thought it was witches. They thought it was the curse of witches.
Right here, I found the quote. So this is kind of that thing of people that that gave or whatever kind of ruined their lives to say drugs were useful. Raoul Duke says this. He says, "We're all wired into a survival trip now. Now more of the speed that fueled that 60s. That was the fatal flaw in Tim Leary's trip." Tim Leary, famous psychologist, who said that drugs, he ended up coming out and saying drugs would help in therapy and everything, and it ruined his career.
Whoa.
He said he crashed around America selling conscious expansion without ever giving a thought to the grim, meat-hooked realities that were lying in the wait for all the people who took him seriously. All those pathetically eager and freaks who thought they could buy peace and understanding for $3 a hit. Yeah, man. Now it's fucking... Now you can be an actual doctor and give people drugs.
Yeah.
And people don't call you crazy.
No.
People give you respect nowadays. You can write books about it.
You know, we got to look at society as a whole and go, we have really came a long ways. Are we perfect? No, absolutely not. But we've come a long ways in just 50 years. Even 100 years.
This is my theory about human evolution is we're this far because we've done everything the opposite of how we did in the past.
Yeah,
So in the
totally,
past
yeah.
where they didn't let women vote or
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
it took 1,000 years for it, I mean, with kings and stuff.
Mhm.
But the only reason we're where we are now is because everything we've done in the past, we've done the opposite.
Totally.
And 50 years from now, we'll be a better society
Yep.
because we're doing the opposite of what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a crazy, and if people could figure that out, we could just do those things now
It would
instead
be
of having to
nice, yeah.
wait until something crazy. Because it's always forced, where it's always like, all right, we can't have kings anymore because it's getting really shitty. Half the population's dying. We
And
can't do that
what a
anymore.
dumb theory, too, to just have someone born into royalty.
Yeah, but we did
where
it
they're
for
leading.
thousands of years.
Yeah.
Thousands of years. A
It's
lot longer than what we're doing.
Pretty
shit now.
ridiculous, yeah.
But yeah, that's my big theory. Is just do the opposite what we're doing now. Everything we got to do opposite.
I love it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Eventually, one day, inevitably.
Yeah, we'll be forced into it.
Still haven't found the Fountain of Youth. I'm waiting on that. I'm not trying to die anytime soon. So
I don't
TikTok,
think you're gonna die
motherfuckers.
anytime soon unless you got something I don't know about.
Well, you know,
I know you
eat
went to
Taco
Vegas,
Bell every day,
and I know you went to Vegas.
It's not good
Yeah.
at this point. And I did go to Vegas, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It could have cost something.
And they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except for herpes.
Except for herpes,
that
and
shit will
all
follow
other
you
diseases.
everywhere.
It does. It does. Yes.
So not everything stays in Vegas.
No, it doesn't.
No, for sure. But yeah, you're actually the only person that went to Vegas and came back more pale than you were.
I know, right? I only spent 1 day in the sun, and we.
What were you?
We even
What
got
were
a
you taking?
cabana and everything.
Underground tunnels around everywhere? How did you
I
manage?
literally just sports bet for 15 hours a day, every single day except 1 day. That's what I love to do.
Hunter S. Thompson would not approve.
He wouldn't,
He
but I
wouldn't
didn't
approve.
have a Hunter S. Thompson to come along with me.
That's why you need me there, man. I'm
hey,
just saying, hey, we
I
gotta
told
get
you
some,
I'm going back to Vegas in November. You got to come with me.
We gotta get some ether.
Let's do it. Let's get
We
ether.
gotta get
Let's
ether.
get some half bottle full of salt shaker.
This is what we
cocaine.
need: 2 bags of grass,
Okay.
75 pellets of mescaline.
Well, me and you, we probably need 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I would say
That's-
double all these things. Double the recipe on this one. We're gonna need a little more. 2 bags, 4 bags of grass.
4 bags.
75 pellets of mescaline. That might be enough.
That's plenty.
5 sheets of high-powered blotter acid, a salt shaker half full of cocaine, and a whole galaxy of multicolored uppers, downers, screamers, laughers. Also, a quart of tequila, a quart of rum, a case of beer, a pint of raw ether. Which you don't know what a pint of raw ether is. It's a large bottle.
That's a very large.
It's a large bottle of raw ether and 2 dozen amyls. Now that we need all that for the trip, but once you get locked in serious drug collection, the tendency is to push as far as you can go. That's what we got to do, man. We gotta go
I'm
down
all
there.
for it. We got to do it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we could just write that. We can go down there, try to reinvent what he did. Probably just go to prison. Probably just go to jail. I feel like they just take you to jail.
2019, they got cameras everywhere. They're probably gonna lock us up.
The fact that they were
first
traveling
minute we
around with all that, I think that'd be life in prison these days.
Yes, it would. These days, yeah, you're not walking.
People
out.
would be like, "What is happening with this guy? He's about to go kill
Why did
himself."
you bring so much of this? It's not very wise.
But in the 60s, I think they'd just like dump it out on the side of the road.
Yeah,
I
it was
mean,
just
as
an
long as you were
everyday
white,
thing where it
yeah,
was like,
they'd be just shaking around and be like, "All right, you kids."
All right.
Mary's got a fucking, he's got a trunk full of beer when Gary Busey pulls him over.
He does, yeah. And he's like, "Why do you have two packets of soap? Huh? I want to be clean." He goes, "Bullshit." He doesn't care about the beer, the alcohol, or the drugs.
Yeah,
he cares
nothing.
about the 2 bars of soap. He goes, "Why do you have 2 bars of soap?"
Oh,
Gary Busey, what a character.
what a card. What a card. A man who doesn't need drugs would be absolutely
No,
insane.
he
Although
doesn't.
I did hear he liked the cocaine.
Oh, I guarantee he liked the cocaine. I guarantee that was his best friend.
I'll
for
never,
many
yeah,
years.
I'll never forget. Someone told a story on Reddit, 'cause this is what Reddit's all about. Everyone knows everyone on fucking Reddit. But a guy told a story. He was best friends with Gary Busey's son, the guy who's in Stranger Things now. But when they were kids, he said Gary Busey and his son would come over to his house. And he said Gary Busey and his dad would just go into the back room for fucking 45 minutes and come out. And the guy's telling us on Reddit, and it's like they would come out and he'd be like, we never knew why, but they'd come out so much happier than when they went in. And so
Yeah,
is
'cause
that
they were
crazy
doing-
story? Gary Busey
yeah.
came to like a guy's house, and that's the only memory he has of him is him, his dad. That was the 80s, man.
The heyday of coke.
Jeez, if you didn't know, if you be concerned if someone's not on cocaine. Be
You
like,
would.
what the fuck? This guy's a communist. Probably you gotta get this guy on the list. The hell's wrong with this guy? Not
Oh,
doing
man.
cocaine? But yeah, cocaine's one of those where I think you gotta at least except Hunter S. Thompson. He seemed to like it a lot. They don't do very much cocaine in this, but in his personal life, he seemed to really fall back on that cocaine. We saw his. And it's funny, dude.
I think
you
he
go,
would have been more on Adderall these days. As a journalist,
No.
you think he still would have done coke?
Fuck yeah, dude. He's
Yeah?
old school. He's
Yeah, I
old
guess
school.
so.
He wouldn't want any fucking. Although they did do uppers and downers and whatnot, but I don't think he'd want fucking Adderall. I've seen interviews with him, man. He did not give a fuck. Wherever he's at, like you'll see interviews and he'll just lean over and just take a bit. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, dude.
That's
Yeah.
gangster as fuck.
Oh
though.
yeah, dude, for sure. And yeah, he didn't give a fuck. And that was during his older days. At some point, you just gotta stop caring, right?
Oh, totally.
How badass would it be if
can't
you saw
wait.
your grandpa?
Oh, I
you
love
gra-
it. I love it, man. If my grandpa was doing that shit, I'd
Yeah,
be like,
dude.
dude, this is dope.
You just take a
man.
giant
I
bump
thought
of
you were a
cocaine.
religious nut. Now you're just hitting coke. This is a cool ass grandpa. Can I have a line? As a matter of fact. Yeah, dude. I mean, you know, when you get to that point in life where you quit caring, I think that's the ultimate happiness.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, if only people would just stop caring earlier in life until they get to their
Or start
60s
getting,
and 70s.
yeah.
Or just start getting cocaine
outraged
earlier.
about every little thing.
I know.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Cocaine doesn't help for that, though.
Because we have so much movie news we got to talk about, and we don't even have a movie news this week.
I know.
And there's a lot. There's a lot,
Well,
my
maybe
friend.
we should do
Yeah,
it.
maybe we should do one.
All right. Well, Mason, what did you think about Fear and Loathing? You've seen it 3 times since.
Which I think
I
that
don't want
should-
to. I don't feel like I should take credit for this film,
But you did.
but I did.
You did. You
I feel like I had a
definitely
hand
did.
in making it, and I had a hand in showing you.
And showing
and
me
opening your
especially,
eyes.
Yeah. And that's one thing, Cash, that I like genuinely enjoy about this podcast is that I do not have the wide depth of filmography that you do. And all these different movies that you were able to watch, I was not.
Yeah.
And you recommended this movie, and dude, I gotta tell you, man, this is one of my favorite movies. And this is an odd thing to say, but I just mean like overall as far as like rewatchability,
Oh yeah.
right? So just keep that in that category. But this is one of my favorite movies in that regard because
Yeah, man.
this movie will
love
never
it.
get tired of
I know.
watching.
And
I
I can
watched
s-
it 3 times in
Yeah.
a week, and I was like, I kind of want to watch it again. It's one of those weird movies that it's like, it's just a trip, man. It's so much fun, and it's actually better to watch sober than to be fucked up.
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched it fucked up the third time I watched it, and it wasn't as good. It's actually a better movie to watch sober. And I don't know, man. I really appreciate the artistic way that they shot this film. I love the 15-degree angles that they do. And the different ways and the different methods, the way the director showed the different trips that the actors were going through, that these characters were going through
Yeah.
with each one of the drugs. The wavy camera for the ether and then more of the tilted side.
And how it changed for like each drug too, and it
Exactly.
got kind of different. Where
And it was totally cool, man. I mean, the hallucinogenics, the lizard people, the blood, that crazy scene. I mean, you got to remember, this is 1998.
I love
The
the lizard
practical
people, yeah.
effects in this, man, were just fantastic for the time, and for the fucking budget they had.
Well, I
they
think-
only had 13 million.
Yeah,
to make
and
this
I
whole
think-
film with
I think-
all those cameos too.
I think this film gets a really bad rap as a lot of people just go into it thinking it's just a movie glorifying drugs,
And
but
that's
it's
kind of the
it's
opposite.
so much deeper than
It
that.
is.
That's what I thought. I mean, I can get why some people don't like it either. I can totally understand
Yeah.
why some people don't like it because it does take, I think, more than one viewing to watch it, and I can
It
totally
does.
imagine how people thought this was fucking bananas, even though it was in the late '90s, and the '90s were kind of a fucking kind of like reemergence of film where people were kind of able to do anything.
Right.
But yeah, I could see come 1998 in the midst of the fucking satanic panic and where people were very anti-drug and everything. I think maybe if this movie came out in the 60s, Jesus, dude, I think it'd make $1 billion at the
probably
box
would've.
office.
Yeah, it probably would have.
It really would,
Yeah.
man. And but of course it didn't. I mean, it wouldn't make sense if it came out in the 60s. But yeah, and you talk about how you've never seen it and how it works out because I love introducing movies that I know people haven't seen, but and that kind of get a bad rap, and I know that you'll sit down because usually when you recommend a movie to someone, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll go see it," and then they never obviously
Never
see it.
do.
But I know
But
with you
and I,
have
it's
to
different. Yeah.
because we do a
'cause
podcast.
we do a podcast, so I can't just wing it. You know,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
exactly,
great
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Johnny Depp was really good.
But I'm not I'm not that kind of fucking movie guy where if I hear you haven't seen it, I'm gonna think, oh, what a piece of shit. You can't. I
That's what
love
makes us-
putting people on new, and I love because I personally would love to go back and see this movie for the first time because I think it is something special.
Yeah.
Some other people see it and are gonna think this movie is shit, but that's fine with me. It's that kind of movie where
that's-
I don't think either way, take it or leave it.
Yeah. And that's what makes this podcast fun too, man, is the fact that like we can recommend movies to each other and we don't, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it yet. It's like, okay, let's watch it and have a good time. I mean, we're able to talk about this movie. I mean, we're at like an hour and 30 minutes or something now.
Yeah.
Just because, we went and saw this movie because you recommended it. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you right now, Cash, had we not done this, just because I knew nothing of this movie,
No, you probably
I
never
would
see
have
it.
never would have
No.
watched it. So it's like, I'm glad because this is going to be one of those movies that I recommend to a lot of people. And even in Vegas, when I was in Vegas, I recommended it to 2 different people in the elevator. It's like, have you guys seen Fear and Loathing in Las
You guys
Vegas?
can't come to Vegas without
starring
seeing this movie.
Johnny Depp and Benicio
You
Del
guys
Toro.
can't be real Vegas.
One couple was Russian, didn't even know what I was saying.
No, they probably didn't speak
no,
English.
they didn't
Yeah.
no speak English.
Probably because you were drunk and just rambling.
I was.
You gotta see this movie.
then I
And
was
you're
doing-
shaking the lady.
Oh, I was. And then self monologues. I'm like, they're watching me.
Yeah.
I can't get in this
God,
elevator. That's
this is-
exactly what they want. They
this
want to
is-
bring me down to the bottom floor.
This is
and they're gonna
goddamn
arrest me.
back country. Yeah.
Bad country.
Yeah, man. And even if we get one person to watch it that hasn't seen it, it's fucking worth it. So if
Yeah.
you haven't seen this movie and you're listening to us, go fucking watch
Go
it.
watch it, and it's on Netflix right now. It's streaming for free. I mean, if you got Netflix, go and watch this movie. You're not going to be disappointed, but just keep in mind this is a very unique and different kind of film.
Yeah, it's not going to be your run of the mill.
No.
It's if you're just the average moviegoer, it's probably going to be the most bizarre movie you see.
For sure, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
If you haven't seen, I've seen some real weird shit, especially in film, because sometimes, especially with like artsy films, people will just go nuts.
Mhm.
But this
like Killing of a Sacred Deer.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is great.
Great.
But
film,
I've seen
great
even
film.
really bizarre films that are just shit, just because they try to be bizarre to be bizarre. But this is one of those where it feels. I mean it's like an indie movie, 13 million, but it feels like a big budget movie,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's very
At the same
kind of
time, it
it's kind
does.
of weird like that, yeah. Where the
Especially with all
writing
the
is very
cameos as
well,
well.
yeah. But yeah, so you'd recommend it?
Oh, unquestionably. I'm actually probably going to watch this movie in about a week or two. I'll probably just throw it on just to watch it. It's fun, man. It's fun.
If you're going to Vegas, I really would recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't paint a very good picture, but
No, it
it
doesn't.
gives you that kind of history, that
And that feeling.
what it used to be, and that's the best. I'm not a huge fan of Vegas now, but I would love to go back in the 50s or in the 60s, and when they're all run by gangsters and whatnot, and you can just get shot for
nothing.
for
Just
being really
gambling.
lucky, yeah,
for just literally
for
polling
winning
the wrong time. Yeah.
It's
Like,
I
come
think it's
here,
one of
man.
those times where you want to win, but not win too
Much. Yeah, because they're going to pop your kneecap down.
Yeah, they're
into
gonna
the
break your
basement.
fucking hand like
Yeah.
casino, or put your head in a vice.
Yeah. Jesus.
We know what happens then. Your eyes pop out.
They do.
It's a horrible
pretty
time.
gruesome.
If you see Joe Pesci down there, walk the other goddamn way.
Yeah. Get the other. He was trending on Twitter today. Did you see that? It was
Why?
hilarious. It wasn't even because of him.
He's never in. He
There
never
was a
does
video
anything.
of this guy who's 5'0", and some girl was like, "How could you do that to women?" He turns around. He's like,
Belzer.
"Yeah, no." He's like, "What do
Oh.
you mean? On these dating sites, all these women make fun of me because I'm only 5'0". And she goes, "I'm not one of those women, dude." The video's hilarious. It's like 2 minutes on Twitter. You got to check it out. But Joe Pesci was trending because they were saying that he was the same size as Joe Pesci, which I'm sure he didn't like. very
I'm sure
much.
Joe Pesci didn't even know. He doesn't have a
No,
Twitter.
he doesn't give a fuck anyway.
I'm sure Joe Pesci could care less. But I'm sure
Too busy.
I'm sure he is a
Making
no.
another movie with Scorsese. You know?
Finally, he's probably too busy counting his money.
I know. God.
The guy's very, very wealthy.
Yes, he is.
And he hasn't done a film in a long time. But you're right, he is. He's making that comeback.
Yes, he is.
Joe Pesci's one of those guys, man. He's a
I
firecracker.
cannot wait for The Irishman. I just fucking. Did you hear they delayed the release date for that? Pissed me off, man.
I'm fine with it. It's coming out straight on Netflix, right?
Yeah, but they're saying it may not be 2019 now. It might be 2020.
That sucks because it was supposed to come out in December, huh?
It was, yeah.
Because that was going to
November,
get.
December.
Except the Oscars don't even do. I thought the Oscars don't
Netflix?
nominate. Yeah.
No, because
Peace.
of Steven. Which
Not because
hilarious to
because
me.
multiple
Well,
directors.
right, but Steven Spielberg came out and said, "Oh, these films can't be nominated for an Oscar. That would delegitimize
Yeah.
the box
I'm really
office
starting to
movie theater."
fucking hate
And
Steven
then-
Spielberg.
And then Steven comes out and he's working on Apple's new streaming service with their movies.
Yeah.
Did you see that? So it's like that.
Did you
seems
hear
a little
about that?
hypocritical
That is
to me.
a series. He's making a series that you're only supposed to watch on your phone. You can't watch it anywhere else.
See, that's so. That's so.
I've
fucking
never wanted to
stupid.
watch anything
on my phone. I've never watched Netflix on
It's
my
2019, and I got a great phone. I got a big phone. I mean, it's great quality.
It doesn't
I've
matter.
never want a series specifically for your phone. I'd rather
I'd
poke
rather
my
not watch
eyeballs
it.
out.
Yeah, I'd rather not watch it. No,
Oh,
thank you.
Steven,
You're not going to charge me $10 a month or $15 a month on top
No,
of that.
I think he's more about that money right now
Yeah, he
than he
definitely
is.
is.
And
And you cannot blame him at this point because it's like
I
why
can.
not?
I think he needs. Maybe Steven needs to take some fucking drop of acid, get back to his roots, where he
Ooh,
really started making good movies. Now he's just making movies for
Hey,
critics.
come on now. Ready Player One wasn't that bad. I liked it.
It's not Steven Spielberg quality.
Well, it's not the greatest thing ever, but it was not a failing grade by any means.
You'd never guess it was made by Steven Spielberg. though.
But the book is actually a lot darker.
Book is great.
Yeah,
I
the
put you
book
on
is
the
actually
book.
better.
Book is so much better.
Yeah.
And we
It's
could
pretty
say that
fucking
about
dark.
any fucking book.
I know, which is so
It
frustrating.
makes us sound like assholes.
It does. You know
I
what?
I agree
I'm gonna-
100.
I'm going.
I agree 100%, but I fucking hate when people go,
I hate
"Oh,
it.
you gotta watch the book."
And I've done it so many times
oh,
on this
yeah, so do I, yeah.
podcast. I probably want to punch myself.
Yeah.
Because I did it with Pet Cemetery as well.
If you like books, it's always
Don't
gonna be
watch
better
the
than
movies.
the film.
Yeah.
Well, because you're never gonna get that much detail in a film.
But I will say, the Lord of the Rings movies held up, in my opinion.
Well, there's
They held up.
absolutely good.
Yes.
There's absolutely good movies based
Yeah.
on Harry Potter. Those were pretty.
Yeah, the
fucking
movies
good.
were great too. Yeah.
There's a lot of movies based on books that do great.
It's just the common trope
Yeah.
to be like, oh, the book was better.
Yeah, and who's gonna fucking say that? I mean, even though Lord of the Rings was amazing, I don't think anyone's gonna say that's read Lord of the Rings that is better than the books.
This is true.
Because it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I mean, no one know. It's like, yeah, no one's gonna say it's better.
No.
Although I did think the Prince of Egypt was better than the Bible.
Okay. Oh, the
thought
Prince of Egypt, the cartoon, the DreamWorks.
Yes,
It was
I thought it was
very good.
better than the Bible's
was
more.
actually really
The
good.
Bible's more of a bore.
And
It's
and
not real
good
exciting.
God, have you ever read Numbers in the Bible? It's the most boring fucking chapter.
That's
I've ever
one
read in my
book.
life.
That's
It
one
literally
book.
just
I
goes
think
over the temple instructions on how to build the temple. I'm like,
you
yo,
don't gotta tell me,
it's a
man.
whole chapter.
You don't
I
gotta
do.
tell me.
You know, you try to read a page a day in the Bible, but when you get to Numbers, you just drop the thing. I can't do this. Either one of
It's-
two things. I'm skipping this chapter, or I'm just not
I
going to read
said
the
that,
Bible
but I skipped
anymore.
about 98% of it.
Just skip the Revelations. You're
I'm a
like,
big
"Man, this is
Revelations
tough."
fan because this is fucking metal.
Yeah,
Now we're
metal.
talking about
Revelations is metal as fuck.
Now
It
we're
is.
talking about fucking make a movie
End of
about
the
Revelations.
World, 7 candles. This stuff's getting
Giant
crazy.
monsters coming out of the sea.
I-
7
all for it.
heads.
What's her name?
I
don't know.
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
You know the Bible. The devil's. Oh no, I can't. No, I don't know. We don't need to talk about the Bible. But Prince of Egypt, better
Very good.
adaptation
Very
than
good,
the
yes,
Bible.
yes.
The Bible, a snore. Honestly, I gave it 3.5 stars.
Prince of Egypt?
No, the Bible.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I was like, the Prince of
Not-
Egypt was not 3.5 stars. Man.
Prince of Egypt didn't do very well.
No.
It did. That's
The
Talking
Old
about
Testament
Spielberg.
starts to get interesting towards the whole battles of like the Amalekites and stuff. That stuff's cool, but majority of it is pretty.
yeah, but I don't think you're supposed to read the Old Testament anymore.
Are you not?
That's why they made the new one.
I don't know. Yeah, it's true. That's
They
true.
rebooted it.
Like, hey, look,
It's a
we're trying to
classic
scratch this
reboot.
out. Who put this in here? It's
The Old
only supposed to be
Testament's
the new.
definitely a little more hardcore than that.
The Old Testament. Oh yeah, man.
It's got some questionable
They had to
motives.
protect that bloodline of and the
God
lineage
damn,
of Christ.
there's a lot of rape,
so they
and
killed
there's a lot of
things.
killing your kids for some reason, going
Killing
and
your
sacrificing
kids,
your kids,
killing
cutting-
anyone who disobeyed one time.
Yeah, yeah,
Goodbye.
stoning,
The
just a
consequences
lot of
were pretty
stoning.
severe back then. I would say I like this life a lot better than living
Yeah.
back then because one.
I
little
like to
fuck up-
look at it more as like more stories of how we're supposed to act more than actual,
yeah, actual
more than because if we really had to do
principle
it,
and
yeah,
application to sacrificing a lamb every time you sinned.
yeah,
because
or
I would-
sacrifice your kid every time he sins.
I don't have.
You're gonna
that
run
sort
out of
budget.
kids.
Yeah, you're going.
They
to.
had like 40 kids back then, so they could afford
Yeah,
it.
they pumped them out, man. They were living
yeah,
600-700 years, so they're just
Yeah.
pumping those out like wildfire.
A long
right?
time. That Noah, he lived a long time.
He did a long time.
And eventually, did they just said, okay, people can't live this long?
No, yeah. God was like,
I
you know
never read that.
what? You know what? Actually, on hindsight, I kind of don't like these people.
Yeah,
Let's-
it's like,
let's
this
cut their
is a
lives
little
from
too
6 to 1.
long.
Yeah.
This is a little too much. We're going to get overcrowded quick.
He's like, they're kind of annoying.
Yeah, and they cut that down real
They did. Pretty fast.
600 to about
Jesus
60
was like, I'm
years.
here to save you all, and I'm going to cut 500 years from your life. All
Unfortunately,
of
we
you.
got... And all people that were like 500 were like, oh, fuck. What the hell
Damn,
are we
we
doing?
just missed the curve.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I got
No
another
pun
100
intended.
years. And that's our Bible talk.
That's
And
our
we
Bible
always try to get into
We
a little
always,
Bible talk because we are strictly religious on this.
We are. and-
Not
and
one
we wanna make
specific
sure that-
religion, but
no,
we
wanna
look
make
at them
sure
all.
that we get that information out there. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing here.
And as a film podcast, there is a few, there's a lot of films based on that old book.
there are, so tune in next week to our review of Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Directed by Mel Gibson.
Tune in next week as we review the Bible. We
The
go
Bible.
through chapter chapter.
The History Channel. Yeah, please.
We go through
please
that
be
whole
here
thing.
for that review.
And we'll break it down. It's about a 30-hour podcast
It
we're
is.
going to be doing.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a
It's
while.
a lot of time.
Yeah, we'll
You
probably
read-
have to do some cocaine.
Yeah.
To stay awake that long.
Yeah, it's a lot of passage
worth
reading
it.
and a lot of it's yeah.
Yes.
It's work, man.
It is. It's a lot of work.
Hats off to the pastors who do
Yes.
it all the time.
Dude,
They get
it
a
is a
kick out
lot
of
of
it.
work. It is a lot of work. Trust me. Good Lord. They do a lot.
Good Lord.
Good Lord.
Bless him. Well, Mason, we don't need to talk about the Bible anymore. That's our podcast. That is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
It is. Do we need to give a grade, give a review?
I don't think so. I would just say go and fucking see it. I give this 9.5
Acorns?
9.5 blotter acid sheets out of 10.
Damn. Okay.
High caliber blotter acid though.
Okay.
This is not the shit
I
you're-
can handle that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of 10,
Yeah, I
that's-
mean, I highly recommend this as well. So.
absolutely. All right.
Well, you guys can follow us on YouTube. Go and subscribe to our channel. You can type in Have You Seen a Podcast? We're the Angry Popcorn in the channel section. You can find our podcast in audio format on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. You can follow us on all of our social medias. We have a Facebook page. Type in Have You Seen a Podcast? We should pop up right away. We're on Twitter, Seen It Podcast, and Instagram, Have You Seen It? My name's Mason Knight. That is Cass Kraus. And until next time.
Adios.